My Star Empire. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, A New Empire, A New Beginning. In a rental house next to Tianyi University of Technology, Mingze, with messy hair and haggard face, was staring at the computer monitor with a ferocious look. Lost again. This was the 5th round he had played, and he had never won since he started playing this game. He felt like he was going to collapse. This crappy game was simply unplayable. No matter how he played, he would be defeated by the enemy in the end. If you have the guts, throw me into the game. I will definitely unify the galaxy, Mingze muttered in a low voice. It's a pity that there is no such opportunity, Mingze sighed. There was no choice but to start a new round of the game. Start creating a race. Human appearance, yellow-skinned Chinese image, friendly. For the form of government, choose imperial autocracy. It's very comfortable to fantasize about dictatorship, materialism and, what's the difference between playing games without fighting and being a lazy person? Next is the name of the empire. Let's call it the Sith Empire. It sounds like a dictatorial villain empire, the kind that is waiting for the protagonist to destroy. I like it. The type of superluminal drive, hyperspace engine, the last option, the mother planet continent world, the mother planet name Sith, the galaxy name Sith Galaxy, all the options have been selected, and Mingze clicked the start game button. He was about to play another game when he felt a wave of sleepiness coming over him. He slowly lay on the table, and his eyelids became heavier and heavier. Along with the sound of the alarm, a clear and pleasant female voice sounded in Mingze's ears. Your Majesty, you should get up. Mingze slowly opened his hazy eyes and rubbed his eyes. He vaguely saw a beautiful figure standing beside the bed, which made him start to wonder if he was married. Wasn't I just playing a game? How did I end up lying on the bed? Am I sleepwalking, and I even had the illusion of having a wife? I must be calcium deficient. Mingze shook his dazed head, stretched and sat up. Your Majesty, the Supreme Law has sensed your desire to rule the galaxy and materialize the empire you created in the game. Now you have come to your empire and become the Supreme Emperor of the empire. The pleasant voice continued to sound. The empire I created myself? I just said it casually and it came true. Mingze looked around in shock and found himself lying on a huge bed. He was in a room that was more than 300 square meters and more than 5 meters high, which was suspected to be a bedroom. The room was decorated mainly in black and gold. The style was an alternative luxurious and simple style, with a strong sense of science fiction. On the left side of the bed is a row of huge French windows that are more than 20 meters long and more than 5 meters high. The French windows are covered by a row of armored blinds, so the scenery outside the window cannot be seen clearly. On the right side of the bed stands a beautiful woman in a black cheongsam. She has a graceful figure and elegant temperament. There are red electric patterns on the black cheongsam, which adds a mysterious color to people. Mingze can swear that this beauty is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen in his life. No one else. I am the management AI of the empire and your personal assistant, Tianyi. The cheongsam beauty bowed slightly and introduced herself with a decent smile. Your Majesty. The highest law leads you to your empire. Under your leadership, the empire will move to the throne of the stars. Plant the flag of the empire all over the galaxy. To borrow a famous saying, you see. You conquer. Wherever you go is your kingdom. Tianyi, dressed in a black cheongsam, spoke slowly, with a hint of bewitching magnetism in his voice, which made people involuntarily convinced. Awesome. If he could see this supreme law, Mingze would have to jump up and kiss it twice. Mingze, who had been influenced by the novel, did not make a fuss. He just waved his fist in the air excitedly. Mingze, have finally reached the pinnacle of life. Since he has come, he should make the best of it. Since God has given him such an opportunity, he should cherish it very much. From today on, let me, Mingze, bring a little surprise to this silent Milky Way. Mingze got out of bed and walked to the window. The armored piece blocking the French window slowly rose, and the orange-yellow morning sun filled the room. The shocking view outside the window was revealed. He was at the highest point of the entire city. Below the window were endless silver skyscrapers. These high-rise buildings were connected by sky bridges. The passages between the buildings were full of vegetation, adding a touch of vitality to the dull steel city. And on the outer walls of the high-rise buildings were hung huge red and black imperial flags. Countless small spaceships shuttled between the buildings, forming strips of light. From time to time, there were high-speed suspension trains passing between the high-rise buildings, and huge holographic billboards were suspended in the air. Your Majesty, all technological products in the entire empire are subject to the restrictions of the highest law. All warships, spaceships, and factories in the entire empire are unconditionally under your control. From watches to space fortresses, everything is under your highest authority. No one in the empire can overthrow your rule with bare hands. You can interfere with the development of the empire as you please. Your subjects have been completely loyal to you since their birth. You don't need to have any other concerns. Just led the country to the peak. The AI Tianyi behind him controlled a bionic robot to put a black cloak with a national flag painted on it on Mingze, and said slowly, "This golden finger is good. This should be the welfare of crossing over. Very good. Very powerful. Tianyi, take me to the administrative center. I want to modify the policies and decrees." He was waiting for this moment. He had long wanted to implement his own ideas of governing the country, but he was suffering from being a student without any opportunities, so he could only hide it in his heart. It's different now. He wants to turn the empire into a nuclear-powered war chariot led by himself. "Yes, My Majesty," Tianyi nodded. The highest authority of the empire, the highest command center of the imperial government and the army are all concentrated in the Mingze in the center of the imperial capital. This giant building of Mingze covers an area of 20 square kilometers and is more than 3,000 meters high. The whole building is wide at the bottom and narrow at the top, triangular in shape, and the outer shell is silver white, like a sharp sword piercing the sky. Mingze came to the tip of the sword under the leadership of Tianyi. This is the office dedicated to the emperor. The entire office is as high as 15 meters. There is a large desk in front of the huge French window facing the south. "Your Majesty, this is where you will work daily in the future." Tianyi made a gesture of invitation. Hearing this, Mingze walked slowly to his emperor's seat, sat down gently, and stretched his waist. This high-end thing is comfortable, 10,000 times more comfortable than his previous computer chair. Before Mingze got up, countless light screens appeared around him, and each light screen represented its own category. What are the points behind this mineral and energy? And what about this scientific research value? Mingze looked curiously at the several numbers displayed at the top of all the pages. Although he vaguely guessed a possibility, it was better to ask clearly about such an important matter. Energy points refer to normal currency units. Due to the development and progress of science and technology, interstellar colonization and spacecraft require a lot of energy, so energy crystals have become the mainstream currency. As for mineral values, because the empire adopts material printing technology, it breaks down basic minerals into quark states, and uses the ability to reorganize them and transform them into the materials we need. However, the required mineral values vary depending on the complexity and density of the material composition, so minerals are also one of the universal currencies. As for scientific research values, because of the simplification of the highest law, our empire can focus on 3 different types of core technologies each time, namely physics, society, and industry. You can use the light curtain to accurately know the technology that scientists are researching, what the future research direction of scientists will be, and how long it will take to complete the research. The more research points you have, the stronger the empire's research capabilities, and the faster the empire's scientific and technological research and development speed, and scientific and technological points can be increased by establishing research institutes. Presenting these technological data to you will facilitate your better management and development of the empire. This is also one of your advantages. AI Tianyi explained the meaning of these contents. Nodding, Mingze found the policy page from a pile of light screens and began to issue his first instruction to take over the empire. Imperial Calendar 2020-01-01. From this day on, no one knew that an extraordinary empire was born in a small corner of the Milky Way. It will extend its tentacles to the entire starry sky under the leadership of its great emperor. Dividing line. Classification of the empire. The highest status is the emperor of the empire, Mingze. The second level is scientists. The empire encourages people to devote themselves to science. Only advanced technology can enable the empire to develop continuously. All scientists will enjoy the highest treatment. The third level is soldiers. The army is a weapon for the Empire to expand its territory. They enjoy super high treatment under scientists. Those who cannot become scientists can also join the Empire's army to expand the territory for the Empire. The fourth level is engineers. Talented people with skills are indispensable to any empire. The fifth level is businessmen. Under the imperial autocratic system, all heavy industries, finance, optical networks, and media are exclusive to His Majesty the Emperor. Merchants can only get involved in light industry and catering and entertainment. The sixth level is the entertainment industry. A strong and progressive civilization will not put the entertainment industry on a high position. The entertainment industry is only something that the empire that is about to decay loves. Besides, the citizens of the empire can just make contributions with peace of mind. The seventh level is citizens. Well, they can't create any value. The subsidies from the empire are only used to fill the land and give birth to scientists, soldiers, and businessmen. Now with the high development of machinery, a large number of jobs have been replaced by machines. Unskilled civilians do not need to work and only receive the most basic living allowances. If they want to get more, they need to contribute to the empire and increase their contribution value. The eighth level is slaves. Any criminal will be demoted to a slave, and slaves and their offspring will be supported by the state. What? Why are there no alien citizens? There is no way. His Majesty Li Mingze is such an exclusive human racist. The defeated civilization can only become slaves or death squads. Only the outstanding ones among them who become scientists can convert their entire family into citizens of the empire. Another way is to join His Majesty Li Mingze's Freedom and Liberation Orbital Airborne Force, cannon fodder. If you survive 10 rounds, you can also become a citizen. Please don't be misled by the first few chapters. This is when the author just started writing. It's pretty bad. Please stick to the 20 TT. Chapter 2. Let the warships block out the sun. In the highest level office of the Blue Brick in the capital of the empire, Li Mingze rubbed his aching head and decided on the technology that the empire needed to focus on in the future. The time required for these scientific research projects was calculated in years. Generally, the empire's political affairs and trivial matters were managed by the intelligent AI Tianyi. Let's rush the troops. With the current shipbuilding capacity of the empire, it takes more than 60 days to build a light cruiser, and there is still a shortage of minerals. Mineral points will be collectively referred to as minerals in the future, so he planned to go to bed and have a good sleep. Unexpectedly, as soon as he returned to the bedroom, he was stopped by Tianyi. Your Majesty, today is the first day of the Empire's first exploration and scientific research ship. Aren't you going to inspire people? Oh? Really? Let's go to the spaceport. Li Mingze nodded in response. He, a native of the Earth, has never seen a real spaceship. Every day, what he saw in front of the blue brick floor-to-ceiling windows were just aircrafts in the atmosphere that shuttled between the city's high-rise buildings. Now his curiosity was aroused. On the platform on the top floor of the blue brick, there is a spaceship with black and gold paint, 30 meters long and wide, covered with a thick layer of armor, and shaped like an oval box. Li Mingze boarded the Imperial spaceship under the protection of many guards and slowly took off under the escort of dozens of aerospace fighters. Sitting in the holographic viewing cabin, he watched the city under his feet getting smaller and smaller. The blue bricks became blurred, the earth slowly turned into an arc, and the sky gradually turned from blue to black, and he was filled with emotion. Although this was his first time to fly out of the planet, he knew that this was his first step to conquer the sea of stars. The outer shell of the spacecraft rubbed violently with the atmosphere and turned into dazzling red, and the holographic screen in the cabin also turned into the same light red. Suddenly, Li Mingze felt his body lighten, as if he had no weight, and he knew that he had left the Sith Star and entered space. Beep, the artificial gravity system will start in 3 seconds. Your Majesty, please do not leave your seat. Tianyi's voice came from the ship's broadcast. Ding, ding, ding. 3 seconds later, Li Mingze felt his body suddenly sink, and gravity was restored in the spacecraft. He couldn't help but sigh that the Empire was many years more advanced than the Earth in space technology, and even gravity could be artificially created. But then his attention was attracted by a giant space station in the distance. The entire space station is 10 kilometers long and wide, in the shape of a rectangular block. At the bottom of the rectangular block, there are 4 spaceship ports extending out and slowly rotating, and above the rectangular block is a miniature city, with various antennas on the tops of the city buildings in an orderly manner. There are only two huge spaceships docked in the space station port. One is a streamlined spaceship with silver-white paint and 4 huge thrusters on both sides of the hull, and the other is a gray, huge spaceship with 4 thick mechanical arms and a huge cargo hold. Your Majesty. The silver-white streamlined ship on your left is the scientific research exploration ship that will depart today. It is 420 meters long, 90 meters wide and 50 meters high. It carries a large number of scientific research equipment, drones, landing cabins and comfortable living space. It is only equipped with 5 small missile launchers, and the gray one next to it is the Empire's latest technology construction ship, 200 meters long, 159 meters wide and 90 meters high. We use quantum transmission technology to transmit the minerals broken into quark sizes to the construction ship, and then the building printing system composed of mechanical arms and drones prints out the buildings we want. Tianyi appeared beside Li Mingze and explained. Tisk, 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 I really want to build battleships and dreadnoughts quickly. Big ships and cannons are the dreams of men. He ignored the 3 light cruisers patrolling in the distant starry sky. Yes, Your Majesty, the Empire will prosper and become strong under your leadership, Tianyi said firmly on the side, with a convincing magnetism in his voice. Well, one day, I will let the Empire's warships block out the sun in the sky. Li Mingze felt that his blood was boiling. The Imperial spaceship slowly drove into the inner port in the middle of the space station. After landing, the port's airlock slowly fell, and oxygen began to be injected into the inner port. A team of soldiers in silver power armor came to the 2 sides of the spaceship gate with guns on guard, and the space station officials who followed closely stood solemnly in front of the soldiers. A robot came forward to lay the red gold-threaded carpet, and Li Mingze slowly walked down the spaceship. It's really corrupt, but I like it, snickering. The moment he stepped on the carpet, a middle-aged official in gorgeous clothes in the queue shouted, "Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire! Salute, loyal to His Majesty! Loyal to the Empire! Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire!" All the people put their left hands in front of their abdomens with guns down, stretched their right arms straight above their heads, and made fists, shouting loudly. Li Mingze waved his hands in satisfaction, indicating that he had received their loyalty. In fact, his heart was already swelling to the point of exploding. This feeling was so good. Led by a group of officials, Li Mingze came to the reception hall. More than 30 scientific researchers in white spacesuits and 20 ship escorts in power armor stood in the center of the hall, holding their helmets and raising their right hands. When Li Mingze came in front of them, the sound of "Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire!" rang out again. Afterwards, His Majesty Li Mingze extended cordial greetings to these researchers on behalf of the government and the people, and delivered a mobilization speech. Dear citizens of the Empire, you are the elite of the Empire. The pride of the Empire. Now, you are about to set sail for the first time, and you will be tasked with the arduous task of exploring the unknown starry sky. To expand the territory for the Empire, you will spread the fire of the Empire to the starry sky under the illumination of the light of the Empire. Your importance is irreplaceable, and only with your selfless dedication will there be a future for the Empire. I'm waiting for you to return with glory in the Empire. Long live the Empire! Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire! The researchers were so moved that their eyes were filled with tears, and they wanted to sacrifice themselves for the Empire immediately, even if it meant crashing into a star. Watching this group of researchers boarding the research ship through the sky bridge, Li Mingze shook off the officials who followed him and whispered to Tianyi, "Increase the brainwashing of the Imperial students, so that they know to dedicate themselves to the Empire since kindergarten. In addition, recruit a few more groups of researchers. No matter what kind of dangers these researchers encounter outside, we can ensure that our scientific research exploration will not stagnate. Your Majesty, you are too bad, it's too late to find out, keep a low profile." After attending the first launch reception of the research ship, Li Mingze boarded the royal spacecraft, left the spaceport with a farewell of many officials, and flew towards the Sith Empire. Tianyi, I think these officials are very rich. Call on them to donate money for the Empire's shipbuilding plan. In addition, check if there are any corrupt officials in the Imperial government. If there are, create an accident to make them disappear. The Empire does not need such termites. Yes, Your Majesty, don't worry, everyone in the Empire is under your surveillance, they can't escape. Well, it's just that the technical limitation is that this kind of crushing is not a crushing in the sense of the noun. What material was crushed before it was crushed and what material was reshaped after it was crushed, so only mining efficiency is high. Chapter 3, Discovery of Colonizable Galaxies. 3 light-years away from the home galaxy, on the outskirts of the Beta Galaxy, a flash of light appeared in the empty space, and a silver-white spaceship suddenly appeared with lightning. Calling Sith Space Station Number 1, this is the Empire 001 Interstellar Exploration Research Ship. We have arrived at the Beta Galaxy and are about to start a galaxy exploration activity. Please instruct us whether to start the exploration activity. Calling Sith Space Station Number 1, we have received your request, and exploration is allowed. Exploration is allowed. Over. After receiving the order to explore, the exploration ship ignited its main engine and slowly drove towards the nearest Beta I planet. Deviate to the left 1 degree, the main thruster is turned off, the deceleration thruster is turned on, the spacecraft has successfully entered the Beta I orbit, turn on the planet scanner, and release the exploration drone. The lower abdomen of the exploration spacecraft slowly opened to both sides, and a radar probe extended from it, followed by 10 streamlined exploration drones. The flying drones started their main engines in space and dispersed towards the Beta I planet. 9 days had passed. In the dining room of the spaceship, several researchers sat together after dinner. After exploration, Beta I and Beta II are completely barren planets. There are no rare minerals, no atmosphere, and no signs of life. Yes, it was a bad start. I didn't expect that these planets didn't even have the most commonly used minerals. There was only a large amount of iron ore, but iron ore is not of much use to the Empire. Iron ore cannot be made into the mineral materials needed by the Empire. Alice, we have failed His Majesty's high hopes. If we can't find useful resources on the next few planets, we will be ashamed to return to Sith. Instead of sighing there, we might as well explore the next planet and don't let His Majesty down. Wang Zhenyu, the scientist in charge of this exploration, came behind them and put the plate heavily on the table. Several researchers looked at each other and lowered their heads. They didn't dare to act rashly. They put the plates in the plate recycling area and hurried back to their respective jobs. 10 days later, the exploration ship arrived above Beta II. Everyone was shocked by the scenery in front of them. This was a planet surrounded by a blue ocean, like a huge blue crystal, with islands scattered in it. The excited researchers launched all the drones on the ship. A few seconds later, 50 drones plunged into the atmosphere with tail flames. 2 days after arriving at Beta II, several messages were sent from the research ship to the Sith planet. Calling the command center, there is an amazing discovery. We have discovered alien life on the planet Beta II. This is the first time in history that a life form completely different from that of Sith has been discovered. This discovery can shut up those stupid people in the country who think that Sith is the only planet with life in the universe. Although these alien lives do not have high intelligence, it may not be long before we can meet them. Not long after Sith Space Station Number 1 received the message from the Empire 001 exploration ship, Li Mingze also received this great good news. In line with the core idea of everything I see belongs to my king, grabbing territory. His Majesty Li Mingze decided to carry out the first colonization operation in the history of the Empire. Exploration and Research Ship Number 001, this is the Empire Number 1 Space Command Center. His Majesty orders you to immediately conduct the most detailed exploration of Beta II. The Empire will formulate the first colonization plan based on the information you provide. The exploration ship that received the order lowered its orbit, and 20 researchers wearing power armor flew towards Beta II on a silver lander. The thrusters at the bottom of the lander sprayed flames downward, reducing the impact force during landing. The lander landed smoothly at the landing point, and the hatch opened with a creaking sound. Several accompanying guards wearing power armor and holding Gauss rifles rushed out first. After confirming safety, the researchers behind them walked out of the lander one after another and began to build a forward exploration base. There was a reason why they landed here, because through the detection of the drone, it was found that there was a very regular metal signal buried underground here, which was very likely to be the wreckage of an alien spacecraft. With a bang, several beams of light shone into the dark corridor, and then several small metal balls flew in from the broken hole. After detecting safety, 5 people in power armor jumped down from the opening. After several days of excavation, the forward team finally dug out the wreckage of the spacecraft and cut open a piece of the hull armor. Several people slowly moved towards the room, suspected to be the control console, under the path of the metal ball. Soon they found that the entire spacecraft was empty. It should be shelved for too long, and some fragile objects had turned into ashes. Captain, the control console here can still be used. Come and have a look. An exploration team member waved his hand and shouted. In front of him was an oval display, which emitted a faint blue light after being touched. In Li Mingze's office, Tianyi was reporting the latest progress of the Beta II planet. Your Majesty, we have discovered the aircraft of an ancient alien civilization on the planet Beta II. From what we have explored, these aliens seem to be a kind of six-limbed mammal. They call themselves the Irisan Alliance and have controlled this area of the Milky Way 1,000,000 years ago. But in the end they were infected with a virus called the Javon Plague. This virus led to the extinction of their race. Although they developed a vaccine at the last moment, the few remaining healthy people were also infected with the plague, and no one survived. We have obtained the relevant technology of the vaccine, and through research, our medical technology can be partially improved. In addition, the virus protozoan plague has also been included in the confidential item storage warehouse. Your Majesty may use it in the future. Li Mingze nodded and arranged for the shipyard to start building the second construction ship. The first construction ship has already set off for the Beta Galaxy. Before starting colonization, the infrastructure of another galaxy must also be taken a step ahead. In addition, the home galaxy will not be left behind. Construction will begin. All entertainment activities will be suspended first. It is not too late for the Pi people to complete the construction first and then have fun. At the same time, a large number of corrupt officials' black income was turned over to the treasury, and these people all had inexplicable accidents. Then a large number of young officials loyal to His Majesty Li Mingze were quickly promoted. The empire, which was originally as old, was full of youth and vitality. Large sums of money flowed into the treasury and were soon allocated by Li Mingze to build mines and factories on the planet. In his words, he squeezed every bit of potential on the mother planet to accelerate development, and then gave back to the mother planet by plundering other star systems. What a perfect development plan! He was amazed at his own cleverness. Tianyi, notify everyone that from now on, all those who have committed crimes above theft will be sent to labor camps, and sent to colonies to mine. To make parts. Until they die of old age. Anyone who marches and demonstrates for them must be dangerous elements and potential criminals who have not been successfully brainwashed, and will be sent to the indoctrination camp to strengthen brainwashing. Li Mingze put his legs on the desk with satisfaction. As long as he continues to develop normally, he will soon be able to save enough capital to explode the fleet, and he will no longer have to stare at the 3 frigates that he had when he crossed over PS, because of the special nature of minerals and energy. They are all used as currency, just like Chinese currency can be used in some small countries. Chapter 4 Shipbuilding. 2,000 meters underground in the capital of the empire, a wide and smooth magnetic train was speeding in a downward sloping tunnel, with a few flashes of light appearing from time to time. At the end of the tunnel was the SS-level Royal Research Institute, which had the highest level of confidentiality in the empire. The entire institute was built 10,000 meters underground. It was a sphere with a diameter of 50 kilometers. The outer layer of the sphere was wrapped with a layer of ship armor more than 10 meters thick. The only way to get here was the magnetic train that Li Mingze was riding. This was the birthplace of the empire's highest technology. Everything from the armor on the soldiers to the design of warships was completed in this institute. It can be said that it was the essence of the entire imperial civilization. Li Mingze left the magnetic train surrounded by many guards, because he emphasized scientific research and allowed scientists to conduct scientific research without saluting or receiving guests. Therefore, only a few security supervisors and base managers came out to greet the entire magnetic station. Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire! The bright lights could not conceal the fanaticism in the eyes of the saluting soldiers. It can be seen that the brainwashing of the Empire since elementary school has been effective. Li Mingze waved his hand with great satisfaction, indicating that it was okay. Then a group of people took the base's hovercraft and drove towards the center of the base. 10 minutes later, everyone came to the ship design department, which was the purpose of Li Mingze's trip. After several months of crazy expansion, the Empire already had the ability to initially build a fleet, and it will soon carry out colonial activities. After that, the Empire's territory will expand, and some warships will be needed to escort and patrol. The original 3 frigates are obviously not enough. Your Majesty, as you can see, These are the design drawings of the 3 frigates we have built so far. A researcher in a white robe waved his hand in the air, and a 3-dimensional image of a spaceship appeared in the center of the room. This is a handsome warship with a slightly wider bow and stern, a narrow middle, and 2 downward extending wings at the tail. The upper part of the warship is equipped with 3 heavy nuclear missile launchers. Nuclear missiles can be said to be the most powerful before the development of new weapons. Nuclear missiles equipped with intelligent modules can effectively avoid the opponent's firepower interception. A frigate can launch 9 thermonuclear warheads in one salvo. Even if it does not hit the hull and only explodes around it, it can effectively interfere with the enemy's shields and weapons, and at the same time cause great damage to the enemy's armor. Change, which idiot designed this? Whose weapons are all in a line? And at the same level? Do you have to turn around and fire when you meet the enemy? Also, you should hurry up to research new energy weapons. Don't give up on them just because the current energy weapons are weak. In my opinion, energy weapons are the best. But don't stop researching nuclear weapons. After all, they are still very useful for burning glass on planets with air. Li Mingze touched his non-existent beard and pretended to be knowledgeable. Of course, this was all his experience in playing games. As for what would happen in reality, he had no idea. However, the lethality of the Empire's energy weapons and electromagnetic orbital weapons is too low, and they are completely unusable. The fleet can only be equipped with fusion missiles and use them for the time being. Your Majesty is wise. I will have people speed up the research on energy weapons. Your Majesty's wisdom has dispelled the darkness of life for us. The Empire will surely become stronger under your Majesty's leadership. It must be said that officials in any civilization are good at flattering. This flattery sounds comfortable. Li Mingze is very satisfied. Let's go to the shipyard for inspection. Li Mingze and his group boarded the magnetic train and slowly left the research base. The head of the base wiped off a non-existent cold sweat. He still remembered that several senior officials were collectively executed for embezzling huge amounts of money some time ago. Although he was obsessed with scientific research and had never embezzled, he still couldn't help but feel afraid when he saw His Majesty. He shook his head, dispelled the fear in his heart and returned to his office. The Sith Royal Shipyard is a huge space station located in the orbit of the Sith moon. It is like a blooming flower, with 5 petals linked to the circular building in the middle. These petals are fully enclosed shipyards. Because the Empire can transmit minerals and energy through quantum, plus the most advanced printing and construction technology, the shipyard does not need any cargo ships to transport parts, and can dump links continuously. Of course, the premise is that there are enough minerals in the treasury. The Imperial Royal spaceship slowly docked in the center of the ring, and a connecting channel stretched out from the ring and buckled with the Emperor's hatch. Dozens of space-powered armor flew out of the small escort ships around the Emperor to guard around the connecting channel. If necessary, they will use their bodies to block any danger that comes. 10 guards entered the space station first. After confirming that there was no danger, Li Mingze slowly walked into the space station. It's not that he's afraid of death, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Although he can ensure that no weapon of the Empire can hurt him, what if an alien sneaks in here? The security here is not as strict as that of the capital circle. Your Majesty, the 4 frigates you asked us to build have started printing the keels. It will only take 60 days for the sea trial. A civilian engineer in charge of shipbuilding followed Li Mingze and reported respectfully. Li Mingze and his group got on the hovercraft and came to the inspection room. From here, they can directly see the progress of the spacecraft construction. Hundreds of mechanical arms flashing blue light swing back and forth in the air, and blue light shines from the nozzle from time to time. Several alloy keels gradually appear in the empty air, but the speed of formation is too slow. It takes an hour to print 1/50th of the keel. It seems that it will take a long time to complete. Li Mingze frowned. Although he was a little dissatisfied with the speed, there was nothing he could do. He could only instruct, wait until the Design Institute has produced the blueprints for the immigrant ship, and immediately start building the colony ship at dock number 5. Also, Tianyi, ask the head of the propaganda department to come to my office tomorrow. I have something to tell him. Yes, Your Majesty, Tianyi and the engineer answered at the same time. It seems that the shipyard is still not enough, the mine is not enough, and the power generation center is not enough. There is a lack of energy crystals and minerals. I am so annoyed. Why is being an emperor not as comfortable as being a student? I miss the carefree days of college dogs. I don't like it. Li Mingze spit. The next day, Li Mingze summoned the head of the propaganda department in his office and began to build momentum for the upcoming first colonization, increase the people's respect for him, and let these Pi people witness him leading the empire to expand its territory. By then, these Pi people will be so excited that they will burst into tears, Li Mingze thought happily. The author asks for collection and recommendation. It is inevitable that there will be some unsatisfactory aspects when writing a book for the first time, but the author is making progress in LT. Chapter 5 Bad News. Alert! Alert! An asteroid has been spotted at 38 degrees in the first quadrant at the 6 o'clock position of the spacecraft. The coordinates are S23345, A52314, G84541. The impact trajectory is being calculated. Alert! Alert! The target asteroid's orbit has changed. It will hit the hull in 5 seconds. All crew members, please leave quickly via the escape pod. 4321 inches. An alarm sounded, and there was a commotion on the number 2 exploration and research ship. The chief scientist was hurriedly stuffed into the laboratory's exclusive escape pod by several assistants. It was a silent collision, just like a silent movie in the 20th century. The armor of the spacecraft could not withstand the impact of the meteorite. The entire spacecraft was torn to pieces, and fragments flew everywhere. In the explosion of the spacecraft, a small escape pod shuttled back and forth between the spacecraft and the fragments of the meteorite, fleeing to a planet not far away. Your Majesty, our second scientific research spacecraft lost control when it was hit by an asteroid while exploring H4, Y2K, and the spacecraft has crashed. Only the chief scientist and 5 researchers on board escaped to the lifeboat and survived. Oh? Hit by a meteorite? How is that possible? Are the early warning radar and supercomputer of the spacecraft just for fun? Ask the command center to send me the last log of the spacecraft. Li Mingze sat heavily on the office chair and rubbed his eyebrows. The scientific research ship that was built with great difficulty was written off. Data is being transmitted. 2021-11-22-2213. The system detected the approach of the asteroid and is calculating the impact orbit. Ding. After calculation, the impact orbit will not collide with the spacecraft. It's safe. The collision alarm is lifted. 2021-11-22-2250. The orbit of the asteroid has changed. The impact orbit is being recalculated. Warning. Warning. The asteroid is about to collide with a spacecraft. 2021-11-22-2251. The outer armor of the spacecraft is damaged by 100%. The spacecraft disintegrated. What is this? The asteroid changed its orbit by itself. Why would it change its orbit by itself, unless its target is the exploration ship? This accident was man-made. Li Mingze was shocked by this discovery. You know, the only people in the entire empire who own spaceships are the government and the army, and the movements of the entire empire are under his control. In other words, he finally encountered an alien civilization. And it is an alien civilization that is hostile to the empire. This matter is serious. The other party's purpose is very clear. If they destroy the exploration ship, then any country will send a rescue or salvage team, regardless of whether the crew escapes or not. If the salvage team or the rescue ship is reimbursed again due to an accident, then the civilization will definitely send a small army to check, which will fall into the opponent's trap. Isn't this an alternative application of our ancestors' siege and attack? Through this accident, the opponent's living force is continuously eliminated, and the opponent's military strength can be judged. Tianyi, issue a red alert and notify all the warship crew members on vacation to end their vacation. All warship reactors are preheated and ready to go. After saying that, he stood up and walked to the wall on the right side of the desk. A beam of light flashed across the wall that was originally as flat as a mirror, and slowly opened to both sides. Inside was a machine similar to the hibernation chamber in the movie. This is the crystallization of the Empire's highest technology. The function of this machine is to connect a person's consciousness with the brain of a cloned person in other places through quantum entanglement technology, so that Li Mingze can freely descend into the cloned substitutes and major space stations and spacecrafts to achieve the purpose of the Emperor's personal visit, and also ensure the safety of His Majesty the Emperor himself. However, due to the high manufacturing cost, it is currently only used for Li Mingze himself. In the flagship of the escort fleet far outside the home galaxy, a hibernation chamber slowly opened, and Li Mingze opened his eyes filled with nutrient solution. Ding. The physical examination is completed, the health is good, the quantum brain synchronization rate is 99%, the consciousness grafting is successful, and the hibernation chamber is open. Welcome, Your Majesty. Li Mingze touched his face and pinched his thigh. There was touch but no pain. Tisk, 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 tisk. Technology is really the primary productive force. Your Majesty, you are using clone number 001. Your clone skeleton has been replaced with alloy skeleton, and the muscles have been injected with medical nanorobots. Now your physical fitness has reached the limit that humans can achieve. Li Mingze rinsed the nutrient solution on his body, put on the power armor prepared by the robot beside him, and combed his hair into a handsome Big Bang. Well, handsome. Come, put on the cloak for Your Majesty. The bionic robot waiting on the side immediately put the cloak in its hand on the shoulders of Li Mingze's power armor, and Li Mingze immediately felt that he was much more domineering. The door of the bridge slowly opened, and the great Emperor Li Mingze walked slowly towards his seat with a figure-8 step. All warships, listen up. Coordinates to the H4 system, disperse the formation, and prepare to start the hyperspace engine 54321. Jump. The shells of the 6 spacecraft flashed blue electric light and disappeared on the spot. At the edge of the H4 system, the 6 spacecraft turned off the engine and slowly glided forward by inertia. Is Li Mingze stupid? He knew it was a trap and still led the fleet to jump in. Of course he was not stupid. He left the hyperspace channel early and used inertia to glide, preparing to get closer and launch drones. If he couldn't win, he would run away. At worst, running back to the Sith orbit to fight a defensive battle was better than trapping the entire fleet. The bellies of the 6 spacecraft opened silently, and dozens of drones accelerated and rushed towards the H4, Y2K planet. The bridge was quiet, and everyone stared at the several monitors showing the drone's perspective, looking forward to discovering something. Suddenly, an asteroid began to accelerate and rush towards the front drone. Appeared. The enemy took action. At this time, the drone rolled and flexibly avoided the impact of the asteroid, but the asteroid did not explode or turn around, but flew towards the distant starry sky with a tail flame. Send out all the drone detectors. I want to know what's going on. Li Mingze gave the order while sitting in the command seat. He was a little confused now. Tens of minutes later, the drone transmitted various data back, and various researchers and tactical experts immediately analyzed the data sent back. Your Majesty, our drone just discovered the remains of a long-abandoned ancient civilization shipyard in the asteroid belt. After scanning, these flying meteorites are the original construction ships of the shipyard. Because of their special reactors, they can attract tiny space dust, so after millions of years, a large amount of space dust has accumulated on them. This dust has blocked the weapons and some engine jets, causing them to only defend themselves by impact when we trigger the alarm. Send the Marines to land on the dock. I want to know what valuables are inside, Li Mingze ordered. Chapter 6 Colonial Mobilization. 20 Marines in power armor rushed into the dock that had been sealed for millions of years. This is SYRAT number 1. The front takeoff area is safe and no threats have been found. This is SYRAT number 5. The loading and unloading area is safe and no threats have been found. Here, after confirming that it was safe, dozens of researchers and scientists also entered the dock to see if they could find any valuable information or technology. Unfortunately, after more than 50 hours of detailed search, no useful information was found. The age was too long, and time turned everything into ashes. However, a mysterious metal sphere stored in the mainframe was found in the computer room. This metal sphere was not made of any known metal material. It was very hard and could not be cut. A ray of lightning flashed on the surface from time to time. Scientists speculated that this might be the supercomputer mainframe of ancient aliens. The specific details needed to be taken to the Royal Research Institute for detailed research. The next day, the Empire's morning news broadcast, under the leadership of the Great Emperor, our fleet defeated the defenders of the ancient civilization, successfully rescued the surviving scientists and captured the shipyard of the ancient civilization, and there were no casualties in the fleet. Under the leadership of the Great Emperor, the Empire will surely prosper. Okay, the editor who wrote this press release should be promoted and given a raise. Let him be the person in charge of the Emperor's personal press release. Talented. A talent, Li Mingze, who was lying on the sofa in the lounge with his legs crossed, drank the last mouthful of porridge with the help of several maids. Well, I have to ask the imperial chef to study how to pickle pickles. The rice porridge made with imperial rice is perfect with pickles. Ai Tianyi, who is responsible for managing the empire's trivial matters, appeared behind Li Mingze silently again. Your Majesty, don't stay at home anymore. Today is the day you are going to make a colonial mobilization speech. Now the entire empire has been signal controlled, and you are the only one left to speak. I say, beautiful Tianyi, please don't always appear behind me without anyone noticing. Sooner or later, I will be scared to death by you. As Li Mingze said this, he walked to the dressing room on the side. Several maids took off his nightgown in a few seconds and changed into a special dress. Li Mingze adjusted his handsome hairstyle and came to the terrace 30 meters high from the square in front of the blue brick. The square under the terrace was full of people, and Li Mingze's figure was displayed on the huge screens of tens of thousands of inches on both sides of the square. Dear citizens of the empire, it took our empire 5,000 years to go from primitive civilization to industrial civilization, and it took us another 300 years from industrial civilization to enter space. Now, we are about to spread the fire of the empire to the second planet. Today is just the beginning. We will conquer the starry sky. And Beta II is the starting point of our journey to the starry sky. Thunderous applause rang out in the field, and Li Mingze paused and continued. I hereby announce. Beta II will be officially renamed the new home star. Long live the empire. Finally, Li Mingze raised his right fist and shouted. Long live His Majesty. Long live the empire. A roar like a tidal wave suddenly came from the square below. The citizens of Sith were excited. Even those who were watching the live broadcast on TV could not help but stand up and stand at attention, raising their right fists and shouting, Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire! Li Mingze was very satisfied. Only this spirit of unity across the country could make him invincible in the universe. Loosely separated civilizations could not survive in the dark universe. There were crowds of people at the colonization registration points across the empire. People were scrambling to participate in the colonization and do their best to expand the empire's territory. Somewhere in the imperial capital, in a duplex apartment. Son, you must work hard on your way to the new home planet this time. Don't let down the empire's expectations of you and the great majesty. It would be even better if you could bring us a granddaughter or grandson. I know, Mom, you are so nagging. The mother wiped her tears and helped her child pack his luggage. She knew that the child who had been with her for more than 30 years would have to go out on his own sooner or later, but she didn't expect it to be so early. However, for the sake of the empire, she had to bear the pain and personally help her son sign up for colonization. A big family is not as big as the empire. Everything is for the prosperity of the motherland, the advancement of science and technology. As an average life expectancy of 200 years, youth starts at 50 years old, 100 years old is middle-aged, and 150 years old is old. Similar scenes can be found throughout the empire. Parents personally help their young children sign up for the colonization of the new home planet, hoping that they could create a new world for the empire. In factories across the empire, transport ships took off, and countless materials were sent to the colony ship launch site, where the colony ship would load materials and colonists to fly to the new home planet. Li Mingze built a total of 5 colony ships. He didn't want to develop a planet from scratch bit by bit. Time cannot be wasted. He planned to send a large number of citizens and materials to the new home planet at one time to accelerate the development of the colony. Prior to this, he had already sent a large number of scientific researchers to the new home planet for exploration activities, and the infrastructure was also completed by about half with the help of the construction ships sent. As soon as the colonists arrived, they could immediately start working and build more power stations, mines, scientific research centers, and factories. A month later, at the colony ship launch site next to the imperial capital, 5 huge ships that were 1,000 meters long, 300 meters wide, and 80 meters high lay quietly in the launch port. The hulls were painted snow white, and the black and red logo of the empire was in the center of the spacecraft. Because the immigrant ships needed to land on the planet, they were all equipped with huge anti-gravity engines. Thanks to these anti-gravity engines, the colony ships could be directly launched into space from the Sith planet without being launched in space. Countless people gathered around the launch site, waiting to see their relatives and friends leave the Sith planet. One by one, The transport robots put the hibernation chambers filled with Imperial citizens into the colony ships. Although the total voyage only took 40 days, in order to carry as many colonists and supplies as possible, the colonists had to be stacked together after being placed in the hibernation chambers, and then released from hibernation when they arrived at the destination. Mingze also personally visited the launch site today, as a clone, of course. After delivering a long and touching speech, he announced the official launch of the colonization under the tearful gaze of the crowd. Spacecraft launch, received, all spacecraft ignited, anti-gravity engine output increased to 90%, 5 huge spacecrafts ejected blue tail flames from their tails and slowly left the ground. The airflow from the engines blew the launch pad spotlessly clean. Engine power 85%, 2 seconds to leave the atmosphere. Goodbye Sith, the pilot of the colony ship wiped away his non-existent tears. It was inevitable that he would feel sad when leaving his home planet for the first time in his life. He gritted his teeth and pressed the afterburner button. The 5 spacecraft suddenly accelerated and turned into 5 bright spots that flashed and disappeared from the sky. The spacecraft passed by the Sith No. 1 space station, which fired dozens of blank bombs into space. The pilot of the colony ship seemed to see the people waving at them from the window of the space station. After 10 days of flight, the colony ship arrived at Sith II, a giant gas planet at the outermost edge of the Sith galaxy. The spacecraft began to accelerate, and after reaching the edge of Sith II, it jumped into hyperspace with flashing blue electric light. Chapter 7 Colonization and Progress. Tianyi is a ship engineer. He was honored to be qualified as the shipboard engineer and captain of the colony ship. Because he needs to be responsible for solving some minor faults that may occur during the operation of the colony ship, he cannot enter hibernation. It is for this reason that he was assigned a 20-square-meter bedroom with a shower room and a gym on the crowded colony ship. Tianyi wiped the water off his head and walked out of the bathroom. This is the 39th day since he boarded the ship. From the initial excitement, to the boredom in the middle, and then to the habit in the end. Because of the good quality, no small faults occurred during the voyage. This made him feel like he was about to collapse. No one chatted or drank with him. As a result, there was no work task. The spacecraft will reach the orbit of the new home star in 10 minutes. All engineers are requested to conduct the last comprehensive inspection of the hull. The system prompt sounded. Tianyi quickly put on his clothes and walked into the elevator with a toothbrush in his mouth. After a short rise, the elevator came to the bridge corridor. Tianyi sat in the captain's seat, brushing his teeth while clicking on the inspection list, but was immediately attracted by the beautiful scenery outside the window. A sapphire-like planet quietly floated not far from the spaceship. Inside the ship, one could clearly see the white clouds floating in the sky of this beautiful planet, and scattered islands in the sea. From time to time, huge Imperial satellites floated over the orbit of the planet. This was the positioning, communication and security prediction system built in advance by Mingze. These satellites also carried a large number of neutron warheads. If the colony was attacked by native beasts in the future, these hellfires would fall from the sky. The main engine of the colony ship began to shut down, and the brake engine at the bow was turned on. A faint blue light suddenly appeared under the bow, and the speed of the colony ship dropped rapidly. Ding! The spacecraft has entered the orbit of the new home planet, ready to enter landing point A. The 5 colony ships drew a beautiful L shape in space, aimed their abdomens at the planet, and then the main engine module at the stern was separated from the hull. This was for waste utilization. After the colony ship landed on the planet, it would be transformed into a city, so the engines and jump devices used in the universe would be wasted. Leaving these devices in space, there will naturally be recycling ships to recycle them for the construction of the next colony spacecraft. The landing colony ships only need anti-gravity engines and auxiliary engines. The 5 colony ships that separated from the thrusters began to descend rapidly towards the planet, and the friction between the belly armor and the air turned into dazzling red. Several beasts on the island stared at the 5 small red flashes sliding down from the sky with wide eyes. Their fist-sized brains could not understand what changes these 5 small flashes would bring to the creatures on this planet. For example, 1 month later, one of the mutated beasts was captured and became the pet of our emperor. The spacecraft is tilted at an angle of 25 degrees, the anti-gravity engine power is 97%, the belly armor is damaged by 0.0025%, all systems are normal, and the auxiliary propulsion engine is started at target point A. Tianyi sat in the driver's seat and looked at the landing point getting closer and closer. He was so excited that he was at a loss. After drifting in space for more than a month, he can finally step on land. He missed the wind and sunshine of nature very much. With a loud bang, the landing gear of the spacecraft was firmly clamped on the ground. Tianyi in the control room skillfully started various subsystems. After training in the simulation system for half a year, he finally had a place to use his skills. With the activation of various subsystems, the colony ship has undergone earth-shaking changes. First, the belly armor opened, and a drill drilled into the ground and stretched out deep underground. This is the foundation of the future base city. Then the upper armor of the spacecraft opened, and various styles of buildings rose from the spacecraft. The high platform in the middle unfolded a high-power radar and signal transmitter. A large amount of liquid metal flowed out from the bottom of the spacecraft, and these metals quickly stretched out on the open space and turned into metal floors. The unfolded armor was split into long strips driven by the robotic arm to form a circle of simple walls around the base. Then the side of the spacecraft opened, and containers loaded with dormant chambers were placed on the metal open space by the robotic arm. Countless robots filed out of the cargo hold at the stern and began to open the containers and activate the dormant chambers. Welcome to the new home planet. The outside temperature is 26 degrees, the humidity is moderate, the ultraviolet intensity is moderate, the wind force is level 3, and the oxygen content is 22%. I wish you a happy life on the new planet. Here I send you the care of His Majesty. Intelligence AI 0023 is at your service. The covers of the hibernation hatches were opened one by one, and people wearing simple colonial armor woke up from the hibernation chambers. The awakened people gathered on the wall, looking at the blue ocean in the distance, bathing in the comfortable sunshine emitted by the new star, and were excited. This is where they want to fight. A brand new world is waiting for them to create. Please, all citizens of the Empire, do not leave the base. Although the scenery outside the wall is good, there are a large number of large amphibians. A warning sounded from the broadcasting system in the center of the base. But there was still an excited little girl who did not listen to the advice. She jumped down from the wall in power armor and ran towards the distant sea. Stop her quickly, it's not safe outside, the security director, who found something wrong, shouted to several guards. But it was too late. Considering the need to build a port, the landing point was only a few hundred meters away from the bay. A few hundred meters away was only a few breaths for people wearing power armor. The excited little girl had already jumped into the sea, floating on the sea, turned around, waved to everyone, and shouted, although the sea here is deep, it is very clear. You can see the bottom of the sea at a glance. There is no danger, but she soon felt that everyone was looking at her in a wrong way. No. Not at her. Looking behind her. She turned her head slowly, muttering that she must be trying to scare me. But then her body froze in fear. Behind her was the huge mouth of an unknown creature, about 5 meters in diameter, full of transparent sharp teeth. That's right, this creature is transparent. If it weren't for the refraction of light, no one would be able to see this strange creature. But even if you see it now, it's too late. The girl can already smell the fishy smell in its mouth. The girl trembled with fear, and couldn't even shout for help. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted. And the unknown creature made a loud noise puff. It farted loudly, maybe it was a fart, fog, and then dived back into the sea. It seemed that it just surfaced to excrete the waste gas in its body. Do you think I will follow the routine? I refused to do that. Several guards rushed forward and took the girl back and sent her to the infirmary. But no one dared to run outside the wall anymore. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Pets. The Empire Jump Laboratory Number 3 is a laboratory built on an asteroid in the orbit of the Sixth Star. It has an SS-level confidentiality level and is mainly responsible for studying the metal ball found in the ancient dock to crack the new jump engine. Since the Empire found the mysterious metal ball from the dock, it was found that as long as a specific light wave was irradiated on the texture, feedback information could be obtained from the texture on the other side. After the supercomputer calculated day and night, it took 5 months to finally crack the information hidden in the metal ball. The metal ball records a new superluminal flight engine, The dimensional jump engine. According to the metal ball, this engine can open the dimensional tunnel. It is unknown whether it is true. Dr. Ferret, the chief physicist of the Empire, felt a little palpitation, as if something bad was going to happen. He shook his head and didn't take it to heart. As a representative of fanatical materialism, he was very disdainful of luck and metaphysics. Doctor, you see this experimental spacecraft can't start the warm-up program of the jump engine. A researcher hurried over, hoping that his teacher could find out where the error was. Open the hatch, I'll go in and check it out. After saying that, Dr. Ferret entered the spaceship on the test bench through the skybridge. Idiot, you connected these energy transmission chips to the wrong positions. Laffet angrily unplugged the wrong chips. At the moment of unplugging, the spaceship suddenly flashed violently. This is a sign of a jump. Several assistants were terrified. They quickly ran to shut down the reactor that powered the engine in the spaceship, but it was too late. The spaceship disappeared in the strong flash, as if there had never been a spaceship on the test bench. A few days later, Your Majesty. Chief Physicist Dr. Ferret has not been found yet. We have scanned the surrounding known galaxies with high-power detectors, and have not found any signals from the doctor's spaceship. I'm afraid. The intelligence officer lowered his head and dared not look into the Emperor's eyes. Even through a screen, he felt the burning anger of His Majesty. Mingze angrily swept the water cup on the desk to the ground. Are you all good for nothings? Do you know how important a chief scientist is to the Empire? Send that troublesome researcher to mine. The Empire lost its chief hyperspace engine scientist, causing the Empire's engine plan to slow down by at least 5 percentage points. No one knows what kind of changes this seemingly accidental experimental accident will bring to the world. Your Majesty, don't be angry. The officers of the colonial forces brought you a little cutie. Tianyi appeared in the office, holding a cute little animal with big watery eyes that looked like a puppy. Your Majesty, this little cutie was just captured from the second planet of the home planet. It has been injected with vaccines and medical robots, and it is very gentle and not aggressive at all. Tianyi stroked the little cutie and said, "Oh, let someone send it to me. It looks really cute and makes people want to stop." Mingze, who was angry, couldn't help but lose his temper when he saw this cute little creature. After a while, a maid brought a little animal up. Mingze took it and touched the soft fur. "I'll call you Little Fool from now on, okay, goo." Little Fool raised its head and looked at the man in front of it with its big watery eyes, as if curious about what the man said. But it may not know that from this moment on, it has such a nice name. From this day on, all the citizens of the Empire discovered that their great emperor had a lovely pet. Whenever Mingze participated in an event, there would be a cute and adorable pet beside him. But why hasn't His Majesty found a concubine yet? The author doesn't know. Little Fool, smile, goo. Little Fool, stand up, goo goo goo. Little Fool, you are really stupid. You can't even stand up. You are embarrassing your predecessors in the pet world, goo goo. Goo 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 goo. Goo goo goo. Okay, I give in. It seems that you are really stupid. Let's go. The master will take you to dinner. Mingze stood up and picked up Little Fool, who was rolling around on the carpet. Little Fool was still reluctant. It was the first time in its life that it lay in such a soft place. Why didn't he let it play for a while? As the pet of the top figure in the Empire Pyramid, Xiaosha also has his own super luxurious nest, with a huge floor-to-ceiling window of 5 meters high, a super soft cushion of 3 meters long and wide, a hot spring pool with hot water 24 hours a day, and 2 young and beautiful maids serving him 24 hours a day. He lives a comfortable life, which makes other Zimbeasts envious and jealous, and doubt their lives. Zimbeasts, which became the mascot of the Empire, became popular in the Empire, but because they needed to be transported back from the new home planet, they were expensive and became pets that only the upper class could own. In the Imperial study on the top floor of the Blue Brick, which is Mingze's office, Mingze is arranging a plan to reinforce the materials for the new home colony. With the acceleration of the development of the new home planet, the demand for food by the people in the colony is increasing. Because of the inclination towards industry, there are only a few small plantations in the entire new home planet, and the food needed by the population needs to be imported from the Sith planet. The Empire's quantum transmission technology can only be used to transmit minerals. It has tried to transmit food before, but the result is that the food becomes as hard as stone and tasteless, and it is extremely unpalatable, losing the original taste and nutrition of the food. Therefore, He can only let the civilian shipyards speed up the construction of transport ships, so that these transport ships can continuously transport food and luxury goods, wine, snacks, beverages, cigarettes, etc. to the new home planet. After all, if you want people to work well, they must be satisfied spiritually. These colonists are not slaves. They just need to be full. They need all kinds of necessities of life. Now there are more than 300 transport ships on the route from Sith to the new home planet. These transport ships transport materials to the new home planet, and then continuously transport the specialties of the new home planet, Kim beasts, special spices, precious gems, ornamental plants, ornamental animals, etc. back to Sith, making the economy of the entire empire more prosperous. Mingze is really glad that all the equipment in the entire empire is under his control, otherwise it will definitely give birth to the great industry of pirates. Empire Chronicle News, shock. The planet is full of big words. The Empire may be the biggest winner. Our reporter received news from Mr. Weiss, an exploration researcher working on Fuji Star. When their exploration ship arrived at the planet Fuji I, it was accidentally discovered that the entire upper hemisphere of Fuji Star was engraved with a huge article using a mining laser. The article occupies half of the planet. This article seems to describe the love-hate history of a miner who was dumped and became a spare tire 5,000 years ago and then became a father. This article allows us to go into the ancient civilization and study their culture. Listen to the latest news from our reporter on Fuji Xing Orbit. PS, the author is an idiot at naming. Chapter 9. 1 year. A year has passed since the colonization of the new home planet. During this year, the exploration and research ship discovered a new planet that can be colonized in a neighboring star system. I don't know why there are many planets with ecology in the star field where the Empire was born. Because the new home planet was being vigorously developed before, Mingze had no intention or ability to colonize new planets. Although the Empire's progress is considerable, it is still a drop in the bucket for building a fleet. The current energy and mineral scale of the Empire can only support 28 light cruisers at most. Although there are so many things to support, there is no money to build them, and there are not enough minerals. This makes Mingze very melancholy. What about the battleships that were agreed to block the sun? No. We must continue to fight. Order the colonial department to start preparing for the second colonization. How is the construction of the colony ship going? I spent a lot of money, on building warships to build colony ships. Tianyi's figure emerged from the floor. Your Majesty, your colony ship has been built, but because the treasury surplus is not much, it is only enough to build 3. Speaking of which, you use this weird way to appear again. You are an AI, not a ghost. Can you change the way you appear, especially when I am taking a shower? Mingze was helpless with a stupid AI. It would be great if it were a real person, right? A few light years away, in the X galaxy, on the orbit of XIII, a research ship quietly floated in space. Several researchers pointed at a picture. The picture showed a huge crescent-shaped mountain range. This mountain range was too regular and did not seem to be formed naturally. Therefore, they argued endlessly about whether to land and approach for research, and finally decided to send a landing ship to land on the mountain range for field investigation. The side of the research ship opened, and a landing ship floated out and flew towards the mountain range. It's simply a miracle in the history of biology. An elderly researcher was shocked after analyzing the composition of the mountain. The entire mountain range was indeed not formed naturally. It is the skeleton of a large alien life form, and there is a huge gap on the side of the skeleton. This skeleton is 3.4 billion years old, but the environment of this planet cannot support the existence of such a large life form. In other words, this skeleton came from the mysterious starry sky. It is not difficult to imagine that billions of years ago, a huge creature was seriously injured and passed through one planet after another. In the end, it was exhausted and fell on this planet. Everyone couldn't help but look up at the starry sky. It seemed that there were eyes behind the stars watching them. I wonder if they can meet such a miraculous creature in the future voyage? On the periphery of the X galaxy, dozens of blue light circles flashed, and a small fleet consisting of 2 light cruisers, 3 colony ships and dozens of transport ships appeared in space. This is the large force of the Empire's second wave of colonization operations. As the new home planet is on the right track, the Empire's treasury is filled again. New colonization projects have also begun. However, for the first colonization with a grand ceremony, This colonization operation only held a small-scale farewell party, and His Majesty Li Mingze just went through the motions. The colonization fleet gradually accelerated and headed towards XIII. Finally, it stopped next to the exploration ship in the orbit of XIII. 3 colonization ships abandoned their engines and fell towards the planet, while dozens of transport ships in space began to open the cargo hold. Countless construction drones dragged the parts out of the cargo hold. Countless parts were put together under the busyness of the drones, and soon a huge core of the space station was assembled. Because this kind of space station is too large, it would be too slow to complete if it only relied on construction ships. So Li Mingze directly ordered each dock to directly build the parts of the space station, and then carry them by transport ships and assemble them directly above the colony. Although the cost is the same, this saves a lot of time. It also plays an immeasurable role in the development of the colony. The assembled space station unfolded a huge solar panel. Because of the improvement of technology, the energy recovery rate of solar panels has been greatly improved, so it has been used to this day. With the support of a constant supply of energy, the robotic arm of the space station began to work, printing out steel cables on one side of the main body of the space station, which is the skeleton of the space plantation. Taking advantage of the gravity-free environment of space, food and vegetables will become huge, and an orbital plantation can meet the food consumption of millions of people in the colony. With the experience of colonizing the new home planet, the new colony ship has reduced the armored walls and stabilization system, and the entire spacecraft can be better utilized. Instead, it is replaced by a laser wall composed of dozens of laser emission columns. The original dormant warehouse container has also been replaced by a built-in dormant warehouse. Each colonist will be allocated an inflatable living cabin after arriving on the planet, and the physical one will be built separately by construction robots. The originally vacant residential building was converted into a printing factory, which can continuously print out the required materials and robots, greatly speeding up the colonization speed. The Sith Star a few light years away, with a blue brick top floor. The population is not enough. The entire empire has only 1 billion people. If this empire was not the race he chose, Li Mingze would have outed the fertility of humans. Implement a policy to encourage childbirth. Give 3 children a suite. Give 4 children a colony planet land. Give 5 children 5 suites and 5 plots of land on the colony planet. Li Mingze was annoyed. He didn't believe that these citizens of the empire would not be tempted to have more children. The empire encourages in vitro fertilization, and all the expenses required are paid by the imperial government. Imperial Daily His Great Emperor announced a new policy. Give birth to more children. The more you give birth, the more rewards you will get. Imperial Folk News Agency The future of the empire needs your efforts. The more children you have, the stronger the empire will be. Royal TV The empire needs more people to expand its territory. Creating a population starts with you and me. Sissy Morning News. After Li Mingze's birth policy was promulgated, the entire empire seemed to have taken a blue pill. People obeyed His Majesty's call. Give birth to more children. Give birth as much as possible. Hospitals in Sissy were full every day, and people consulted on how to give birth in vitro. Because the main reason for limiting fertility is the 10-month pregnancy, but the empire's latest in vitro fertilization technology solves this problem. People only need to extract the eggs and sperm in their bodies and breed them in artificial placentas. Wait until 10 months later to go to the hospital to take back their babies. This great technology has another advantage, that is, in the artificial placenta, scientists can slowly optimize the genes of the fetus through gene intervention, remove various genetic disease genes, and ensure the yield rate of the fetus. The Terman couple just got married this year, and originally thought of having another child in 30 years. But after seeing the news yesterday that the empire needs more people, they decided to contribute their own strength to the empire. There are countless couples like Terman. After the brainwashing propaganda of the state machine, people responded to the call and gave birth. Give birth. Give birth. P.S. The author will speed up the development and advance the plot. Chapter 10 Crisis Exposed. In the Wicked system, an imperial mining station is floating above the Wicked II satellite. The red mining laser keeps sweeping back and forth over the mine, and the ore is powdered by the mining laser. A drone uses a collector to suck the ore powder into its body and then flies back to the mining station. Xiao Wang, a mining machine maintenance worker, is sitting comfortably in a chair, holding a cup of hot coffee in his hand. He shakes his head while listening to the old music coming from the projector. Suddenly, The monitor on his left makes a beeping alarm sound, which startles him and spills the coffee in his hand. He frowns and wipes his hand on his oily work clothes. He turns around and faces the alarm monitor. There is a constantly rotating scanning page on the monitor. This is a simplified version of the hyperspace radar equipped by the mining station, which is used to scan the hyperspace fluctuations near the mining station. 10 red light spots suddenly appeared on the monitor that should have been empty. Green represents recorded civilian jump fluctuations, blue represents military jump fluctuations, and red represents unknown. Xiao Wang was so scared that he quickly turned on the communicator. This is the Vikhet II mining station. Calling the headquarters, an unknown hyperspace fluctuation has been detected here. Before he finished speaking, 10 warships with ferocious appearances appeared in the space not far from the mining station. The unknown warships that completed the jump rushed straight towards the mining station. This remote mining station located at the edge of the galaxy is not equipped with defensive ships. The only thing that can cause damage to these warships is 5 missile launchers and 5 Gauss machine guns. The tails of the 5 missile launchers sprayed blue flames, which were the flames produced by the chemical fuel in the missiles. 20 missiles flew quickly towards the warships. You asked why they opened fire. Because the weapons on these warships had begun to emit blue light. Facing 20 missiles, the 10 warships did not even pause, and still flew straight towards the mining station. The missiles hit the warships and emitted a dazzling light, but unfortunately, it did not cause any impact on these warships. The enemy's counterattack also came with the explosion of the missiles. 20 red beams swept across the mining station and tore the armor of the mining station. All the weapons on the mining station were also scrapped in this attack. Xiao Wang, who was sitting in the control room, looked pale. He knew that he could not escape. Any escape pod was nothing in front of the warship. He made up his mind. He destroyed all the data in the mining station and formatted the host. Before the enemy came, he straightened his messy hair and changed into his favorite combat uniform. He sat on the chair in the control room, holding a pistol in his hand, and sent his last words back to the Empire. Dear mother, father, I am a non-filial son. I have not been able to give you a grandson, and I have not even found a wife. There will be no chance in the future. I hope you will not be sad after I leave. Have a brother or sister. After all, you are still young. I love you. Long live the Empire. After saying that, he wiped away his tears and stared at the monitor. In the monitor, a small group of aliens in ugly power armor cut off the outer shell of the mining station and rushed towards the control room. Xiao Wang slowly closed his eyes and slowly pulled the trigger of the gun in his hand towards his temple. He was still muttering to himself, "Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire!" When the alien marines broke into the control room, they found that the alien in front of them had committed suicide. They couldn't help but be furious. When they checked the host, they found no useful information. The alien commander waved his hand angrily and took all the marines back to the spacecraft. The mining station disintegrated and exploded under the concentrated fire of the warship. In the command center of the Sith No. 1 space station, everyone was silent when they saw the last message sent back by the Vikhet II mining station. We must inform His Majesty as soon as possible. The enemy's behavior is a provocation to the Empire. We must make these guys pay the price. On the top floor of the blue brick building, Li Mingze quickly received a full report on the whole incident. Let all officers in the combat analysis room come to my office. In less than 10 minutes, Li Mingze's office was full of officers. Li Mingze walked out from behind the desk and waved his hand in the air. The center of the hall showed the image of the enemy fleet recorded by the mining station. Tell me what you think and what you can analyze from this information, Li Mingze said quietly, and no one could see his current mood. Your Majesty, judging from the video and the damage records of the mining station, these enemy ships are more than 800 meters long and should be destroyers. They are equipped with visible laser weapons. This pure energy weapon seems to have very high damage to armor, several officers said to Li Mingze after discussing with their heads down. I want to know. Can our current fleet strength defeat them? Li Mingze frowned. Your Majesty, it's a pity that although we have a large number of warships, we are no match for them in terms of tonnage and quality of warships, and these are only the warships exposed by the enemy. We don't know the exact number of their warships. Not only that, their weapons also have a restraining effect on our armor. All of you go out and leave me alone. I'll think of a solution. Yes, Your Majesty. Many officers filed out. Li Mingze called out at Tianyi, Besides being able to control all the equipment in the Empire, do I have any other cheat codes? No, Your Majesty. The Supreme Law allows you to control the Empire you created, which is already the biggest cheat code. You can only blame yourself for not modifying more data when playing games. It seems that I can only play the 36 stratagems of our ancestors. The next day, Mingze summoned the nuclear physicists of the Empire to discuss the feasibility of the superweapon, sugar-coated bullet. Many scientists said that with the support of existing technology, the target design can be achieved, and the volume will not be too large, but the production cost is huge. Imperial Propaganda Department. Your Majesty sent an imperial decree, asking us to broadcast a video sent by the Wicked Eye mining station to the entire Empire. Yes, all major television stations and optical network, internet, websites in the Empire simultaneously pushed the tragedy that occurred at the Wicked Eye mining station. The hatred among the people was mobilized. People ran around the streets to appeal. The Empire was asked to fight back. Let the glory of the Empire purify these residues. The next day, His Majesty the Emperor delivered an important speech on all television stations. Dear citizens of the Empire, the enemy has pointed their weapons at our chests. A citizen of the Empire has sacrificed his life for the country. But our fleet is not strong enough to defeat the enemy's fleet. The Empire is developing super weapons, but the treasury is not enough to complete the construction of super weapons. I hope you can donate the energy blocks in your hands. For the Empire. Chapter 11 Super Weapon. In the dock on the Sith moon, a light cruiser is undergoing a super weapon modification. After 30 days of intense research and development, the super weapon was finally completed with the efforts of the whole country. The super weapon is codenamed Sugar-Coated Bullet and its scientific name is Star Crusher. The energy of the entire Empire's power generation center is mobilized to compress hydrogen and lock it with a field. It is ignited by the energy of fusion. The entire Star Crusher is 20 meters long, wide and high, and its detonation is equivalent to 3 billion tons of TNT. The sugar-coated bullet plan is to place the Star Crusher at the reactor of the battleship, replace the original reactor, and convert a battleship into a storage battery function, so as to prevent the enemy ship from scanning. The Empire has urgently built a fake shipyard on Wicked Eye, and will dock 3 light cruisers there, one of which is equipped with a super weapon Star Crusher. When the enemy attacks next time, 10 Imperial battleships will pretend to be defeated and retreat to the Sith planet, and the aliens will capture the 3 light cruisers under repair. The enemy will definitely take away the intact spoils, and when they reach their capital Duong the plan is complete. Of course, it would be better if the enemy does not come again, which would give the Empire time to develop stably. In the Wicked system, in the orbit of Wicked Eye, 3 cruisers are quietly docked in the port. 10 light cruisers of the Empire are cruising around the space station, as if guarding against something. 10 blue spots of light suddenly appeared in the distant starry sky. 10 warships instantly appeared in the orbit of Wicked Eye. After determining the new target, this small fleet began to accelerate towards the dock on the orbit of Wicked Eye. This is the stump. The rabbit has appeared. The plan begins. Over. After receiving the signal, 10 light cruisers of the Empire also ignited their main engines and flew towards the alien fleet. Tilt left and down 20 degrees, all missiles fired. Everyone focus on the first enemy warship. Ship number 2 received, ship number 3 received, ship number 4. Flames burst out from the Empire's warships, and countless missiles flew towards the first enemy ship. The alien warships began to brake urgently, but unfortunately the missiles were all guided missiles. The dense missiles like raindrops hit the first alien warship, emitting bursts of dazzling light. Soon, the warship began to emit flames, and some hull fragments shot out. But unfortunately, it did not explode, but was severely damaged. The alien warships were enraged by this wave of attacks. 40 red beams of light swept across the Empire's fleet, and 2 light cruisers were torn apart by lasers because their armor could not withstand the strafing. Retreat. Retreat. Mission accomplished. The fleet initiated an emergency jump. Enter hyperspace. The remaining 8 light cruisers of the Empire flashed blue light and disappeared from the spot. This emergency jump technology is used for retreat, and it is extremely unstable. The fleet will enter hyperspace and wander, and will not jump out at the nearest jump exit until dozens of days later. Moreover, it is very dangerous to enter hyperspace, and the ship may be destroyed and people may die at any time. After the alien fleet found that the enemy had escaped, they accelerated to the repair dock. They hoped to obtain some useful information, such as the data of this country. Dozens of alien marines occupied the dock. Sir, we found some data that was not deleted cleanly. These data came from a broken motherboard in the scrap recycling center. This race is testing a new reactor. Here is one of their experimental ships and 2 damaged warships. The hulls and engines of these ships have different degrees of damage, but we can use the warships to tow them away. Well, the harvest is good. Bring these ships back to the base. It seems that we can add 3 new ships. The alien commander touched the tentacles on his chin excitedly. The capital of the Sith, the Blue Brick Combat Laboratory. Your Majesty, the sugar-coated bullet has been captured by the other side and is being towed back to their base, an officer reported. Good, let the fleet prepare. We will pick up some slag and bring it back for research, Li Mingze said happily. Li Mingze returned to the office, opened the will-descending chamber and lay down in it. In the Sith orbit, in a warship escorted by 23 light cruisers, Li Mingze's avatar washed up, put on his armor, and walked into the bridge. All warships, listen to the order. After reaching the edge of the home system, jump to the enemy system, the location of the alien fleet base. Set off immediately after the Star Crusher is detonated. Now let's wait quietly for the moment when the beautiful fireworks bloom. In the enemy system, 3 warships towed 3 Imperial warships slowly towards the asteroid belt, and 7 warships around acted as guards. In the middle of the asteroid belt, there is a giant asteroid with a diameter of 100 kilometers. Now this asteroid has been hollowed out, and more than 10 warships are parked inside. These warships are being maintained. In a bar in the residential area, accompanied by noisy music, a group of soft-bodied creatures with tentacles on their chins gathered together. Cheers! There was a chick on the merchant ship we robbed 2 days ago. Her tentacles were so slippery. You can't envy her, Tisk. That's nothing. Our fleet looted a slave ship yesterday, a whole ship of women. Our captain said, everyone who participated in the looting will get a slave girl. Haha, come on, cheers. Others congratulated one after another. Look, Old Patton's fleet is back, and they have looted 3 warships. An alien sitting at the window shouted loudly. Oh my god, now we finally have new ships to use. Now the ships in our fleet are all old ships from 100 years ago. I'm afraid I won't be able to come back if I go out. Li Mingze didn't know that the alien fleet he was facing was just a squadron of pirates from a country called the Parker Alliance. Even if he knew, he would probably shout that the Parkers would sooner or later be slaves of the Empire, and the planets of the Parker Alliance have been the inherent territory of our Empire since ancient times. We are taking back the land first. Many Parker pirates crowded at the loading and unloading dock. It might not be seen once in more than 10 years that the old Patton fleet robbed 3 warships at a time. Their warships were all handmade or second-hand goods from the warship graveyard. Old Patton's fleet towed the 3 warships and slowly entered the asteroid fortress. The heavy airlock fell down after the spacecraft entered. Chopper felt a little palpitation, but he didn't know what went wrong. He had no choice but to blast this idea out of his mind. Chopper decided to take his 3 small boats out for a turn to see if there were any good objects to rob. He led his small fleet to slowly leave the base through the airlock on the other side. In fact, the reason he came out was that he was the bottom of all the fleets, although they were all the newest small warships of the Alliance. But he didn't rob any good goods at all. This made him not want to stay in the port, which would make him very uncomfortable. But then he was stunned by the scene of the asteroid base outside the window. Chapter 12 Bloom, Beautiful Fireworks. Chopper was stunned by what happened to the asteroid fortress in the distance. The asteroid fortress, which was magnificent when he came out, now seemed like an expanding balloon, with flashes of light leaking out from the gaps from time to time. Bang! The shock wave generated by the explosion lifted him off the command seat, and his spaceship kept rolling under the shock wave. The small fragments generated by the explosion of the asteroid in the distance hit his warship with thousands of holes. His consciousness gradually blurred. He only realized one problem: the asteroid fortress was finished. The pirate fleet was finished. Time went back to 5 minutes ago. Old Patton's fleet placed 3 warships in the port with tractor beams amid cheers. The pirates who couldn't wait swarmed up and touched the new ship, as if it was a naked and slippery beauty. A pirate walked into the spaceship and came to the reactor room. He was the top reactor engineer in the pirate group. Basically, the reactors of the warships in the pirate group had been repaired by him. He felt something was wrong when he entered the reactor room. This should not be the structure of the reactor. The reactor does not have this structure at all. What on earth is this? There's a camera? He stretched his face over. Ling. Destination reached, beacon being sent, starbreaker detonation countdown, 3-2, it's a bomb. Unfortunately, he found it too late. This bomb was so cleverly disguised that the external scanning imaging was completely a new type of reactor. Damn. I was careless. Bang. Unfortunately, due to the intense bombardment of the debris, the life support system has been completely scrapped. Only a few pirate leaders wearing combat uniforms survived, but they were also knocked unconscious by the strong vibration. Drag these spacecraft back to the new home planet research station. Although the enemy is unlikely to play this trick, it is still better to be careful. Also, don't let go of the fragments produced by the explosion. Send drones to find all the useful things in the galaxy and bring them back, Li Mingze ordered the person in charge of the salvage ship. Yes, Your Majesty. The figure of the person in charge disappeared from the screen. Chopper opened his hazy eyes and found that the light where he was very dazzling. He couldn't help but put his hand in front of his eyes. Hey. Why can't I move my hand? Why are my hands locked? Where am I? Has our pirate group been wiped out by the Alliance? Have I been caught? No, I don't want to die yet, Chopper said to himself excitedly. You are our prisoner now. Answer my questions obediently, or I will not be polite. Li Mingze's advent substitute was sitting at the interrogation table. When he knew that a fleet commander was also captured, he came excitedly to experience the pleasure of interrogation. He wanted to use 18 kinds of torture on these disobedient aliens to let them see what human wisdom is. Chopper's eyes have adapted to the strong light. When he saw that the person opposite was not any race he knew, he understood instantly. He met an alien. My lord. My lord. What do you want to know? As long as I know it, I will answer it truthfully. I only beg to spare my life. My cheap life is worthless. No. It is valuable to you. Chopper stared at his watery little eyes, as if you don't let me be a guide, I will cry for you. Li Mingze was stunned. What about the agreed not to cooperate? What about the 10 tortures of the Qing dynasty? What about the agreed swearing to die? How come aliens gave birth to such an alien traitor? I haven't even asked yet and he has become a guide. Li Mingze got the specific information of the Parker Alliance without any effort. The Parker Alliance was originally an organization similar to the United Nations composed of many countries of the same race. Later, after it developed into the interstellar era, it absorbed many other countries in the star field. Now it is a federation of many independent small countries. The entire alliance is unified but independent. It has achieved economic unity, but is independent in military terms. The member countries have also funded the establishment of 3 joint fleets, but the fleets are under the management of the founding countries of the alliance. The fleet of the entire alliance is very powerful. More than 1,000 light cruisers and 200 destroyers are the main forces of the alliance. Others such as the Mercenary Union and the Pirate Alliance are not included. This is a bit troublesome. It is not fun to have a powerful country as a neighbor. Fortunately, there are several galaxies in the middle as a buffer zone, and the Empire has not been discovered yet, but now the Empire can only develop in another direction. November 30, 2023. The fleet returned with a full load of captured warships and explosion debris. It is expected that through the research and analysis of the wreckage and captured warships, the Empire will make considerable progress in the research and development of warship armor, hyperspace engines, combat computer AI, and beam weapons. Li Mingze's advent substitute returned to the hibernation chamber with the farewell of everyone. Li Mingze himself woke up leisurely from the blue brick office. Oh, it's really uncomfortable. I haven't seen my soft big bed and my cute little silly for more than 10 days. Li Mingze missed his little pet so much. He used to be with him every day, but he was very uncomfortable after not seeing it for half a month. He came to the little silly's nest, picked up the sleeping little silly, and rubbed it. Goo. The editor followed the fleet and His Majesty the Emperor to participate in the siege operation against the alien fleet that offended the Empire. Under the wise command of His Majesty, the Imperial fleet was unstoppable. They fought their way in and out of the enemy fortress 7 times without any damage. They beat the enemy fleet and made it flee in panic. They captured an enemy fleet. They captured an enemy general. Inspired by His Majesty, the enemy surrendered to the Empire. They became the vanguard of the Empire to liberate the suffering people of the Parker Alliance. Once again, the planets occupied by the Parker Alliance are the inherent territories of the Empire since ancient times, and they are sacred and inviolable. Our liberation of the inherent territories is just Under the leadership of His Majesty, the Empire will surely be glorious. Long live His Majesty! Long live the Empire! Thanks to Dadao GM, Yi Liao, I love Wei Xiaobao, 846,669,422, and 6 Yu for their recommendations. Chapter 13 Shelter Residence. Monica was born in a nuclear shelter. Her childhood was filled with dim lights, drinking water full of disinfectant smell, tasteless nutrients to fill her stomach, and the meat of mutant insects that she loved to eat when she was a child. The shelter was her childhood. She didn't know what the outside world looked like, but she could get a glimpse of it from the precious images preserved before the war, such as the blue sky, the green grass on the ground, the forests, rivers, and cities. Oh yes, the city is the place she longs for the most. I heard that there are skyscrapers made of glass there, hundreds of meters high. This is incredible for her young age. I also heard that the people living there are very happy and have countless delicious foods. Although I don't know what is delicious, it must be something more delicious than the meat of mutant insects. If it weren't for the nuclear war between the Great Bear Country and the Little British Alliance, she should still be attending classes in the legendary school and wearing her favorite fancy clothes, but it was all because of that war. The vibration in the distance pulled Monica back to reality from her memories. Now she was wearing clothes made of dark black tattered linen, huddled between two collapsed ruins. She had been homeless since the riot broke out in the shelter 3 years ago, when the director detonated the reactor and air purifier. She wandered among the ruins all day long and made her living by hunting mutant insects. The sky was still gloomy, and volcanic ash was floating in the air. The green plants in the city had long disappeared, replaced by dark red moss, which absorbed radiation and grew, replacing plants to produce oxygen for Monica's survival. Monica was motionless, her eyes fixed on a mutant carbonyl in the open space in the distance, her hand tightly holding a javelin made of discarded steel bars. As the carbonyl slowly approached, she charged the javelin in her hand and threw it out, and at the same time, the whole person popped out like a cannonball. Monica, who was still in the air, pulled out the 2 daggers on her waist, which were the only belongings she brought out of the shelter. Poof! The javelin pierced Carbony's abdomen fiercely. Monica just fell down at this time. She kicked the javelin with her foot and jumped onto Carbony's back, which was 2 meters high. The 2 daggers were aimed at the seams of Carbony's head armor and back armor and stabbed hard. Zzz! Carbony let out a wail. He began to shake his body violently, trying to throw the guy on his back off. But Monica didn't give it this opportunity. She pulled out the dagger, jumped forward and turned her body 180 degrees, and stabbed the dagger fiercely into Carbony's 2 huge compound eyes. Not wanting to fight, Monica pulled out the dagger and jumped out of Carbony's attack range. While Carbony was struggling in pain because of the injury to his compound eyes, she went around Carbony's side, held the javelin and slashed it hard to the side. Dark green body fluids gushed out from the cut wound. After a while, Carbony was silent. Monica skillfully cut off Carbony's 6 thighs, which were the most valuable parts of this mutant insect. She didn't need to go out to adventure hunting for at least 5 days. Just as she happily carried the spoils and prepared to leave, countless carbonyls slowly surrounded her. These bugs actually have simple wisdom. This is a trap. Monica was desperate in the face of such a dead end, and resigned herself to pointing the dagger at her neck. At this moment, a few flashes of light flashed in the sky, and a small group of drones appeared in the sky. The drones opened their magazines, and thumb-sized missiles fell like snowflakes. There was a deafening explosion around Monica, and the air waves caused by the explosion blew her hair in the air. What is this? Monica was a little confused. She had only seen this kind of explosion seen in documentaries. Since civilization was destroyed by a bomb, no one has used this weapon again. The drone that had dropped the bomb whizzed over Monica's head and flew into the sky. Monica, who was still in a state of shock, saw a huge fireball appear in the sky in the distance, and an extremely large spaceship flashed red light and flew quickly. She didn't know that this exploration and research ship had been staring at her for a month. As the first industrial civilization encountered by the Empire, although it is an industrial civilization that is almost destroyed, it still has great research value. The creatures of these civilizations are also very receptive to advanced technology. They are the best candidates for slaves and cannon fodder. Mingze thought that when landing wars on other planets in the future, millions of cannon fodder orbital airborne soldiers wearing simplified power armor would fall from the sky. No pension is required for death in battle. There is no need to consume the precious population of the Empire. I drool just thinking about it. The exploration ship slowly landed in front of Monica, and the hatch at the bottom opened. Several guards wearing power armor ran out quickly, took out the electric shock device to knock Monica unconscious in a daze, and lifted her onto the spacecraft. The exploration ship started the anti-gravity engine and quickly left the planet and returned to orbit. Monica, who was sleeping, was stripped of her dirty clothes by several robots and sent to the cleaning chamber, which sprayed high-speed water mist, followed by disinfectant, then biodegradable shower gel, and then water mist. The fragrant Monica came out. The robot waiting nearby shaved off the blue sweat hair on Monica's body and put it into the storage device. This is the best research material, and then used a laser to remove the scars left on Monica's body. Another robot put the prepared work clothes on Monica and put a safety ring around her neck. The safety ring penetrated into the spinal cord, extracted cerebrospinal fluid and implanted vaccines and medical robots at the same time. This safety ring also has the function of self-destruction to prevent some natives from falsely landing. After sorting it out, the robots placed it in a lounge. Monica, who was sleeping soundly, didn't know that her life would change dramatically from today. In the blue brick, Mingze said to Tianyi, "Prepare for the landing chamber. I want to meet my future cannon fodder captain in person." After that, he stepped into the landing chamber. Dozens of light years away, in the 005 exploration and research ship, Mingze's landing stand Yao woke up from the dormant chamber. Wearing a handsome power armor and cloak, he walked towards the observation room. In the observation room, Monica sat on a white rubber bed at a loss. Her light blue skin turned a little pink due to nervousness. And the two tentacles on her head also shrank inwards due to nervousness. Mingze opened the heavy gate of the observation room and came to the chair in front of the bed. He pulled out the chair, sat down facing Monica, and stared at her. I have to say that although I have seen photos, it is still shocking to see her in person, not because she is beautiful, but because in the universe, you can actually find mammals that are not much different from humans. Chapter 14 Orbital Airborne Forces. Relax, girl, we won't do anything to you. On the contrary, we saved you, didn't we? Mingze turned his hand to indicate that it was harmless. The portable translation system translated Imperial Chinese into the language of Monica's country. Are you aliens? I don't want to be dissected. Please let me go. At this moment, Monica didn't look at all the heroic spirit she had when she fought against the mutant insects in the ruins. Instead, she curled up into a ball, looking pitiful. Hey, we don't need to dissect now, just scan it. Don't be misled by your brainless novels and film and television materials. We come with good intentions to help you and your people get rid of hell and give them the opportunity to breathe clean air. Snickering. Hey, maybe you don't know, our spaceship came to your planet a long time ago. At that time, you had not evolved civilization. Until one day, one of our spaceships crashed on your planet and you had your current civilization. So this planet has always been the inherent territory of the Empire. You destroyed the inherent territory of our Empire with nuclear weapons. But we are tolerant and generous, and our Empire still intends to save you. Thank the Empire. Thank the great Emperor who made this decision. Mingze coughed and continued to fool around. Monica was really moved. She had lived in a shelter since she was a child. Even if she wandered outside later, she was alone and had no experience in the world, but the Empire's tolerant heart made her feel the warmth she had never had before. Just like caring for her family, she, who had lacked maternal love since childhood, was moved to tears at this moment. Even though she later became a general and knew the truth, she still took it for granted after decades of brainwashing by the Empire machine. Everything for the Empire. I am willing to obey His Majesty's call. I am willing to follow the great Emperor forever. Monica even used the nouns in the knowledge that was instilled in her by the learning machine since she was a child. Well, very good. From today on, you are a soldier of the Free Liberation Airborne Army. Snickering, Mingze patted Monica's shoulder with satisfaction. Go to the guard officer to learn how to use the equipment, and follow the rescue team to your home planet in the future to save more people living in dire straits, Mingze said without looking back when he stood up and left. In fact, he was not pretending to be cool, but he really couldn't help laughing. This girl was so easy to deceive, and it was so easy to win over an alien traitor. Understood. Can you tell His Majesty for me? I, Monica, am a member of the Empire in life and a ghost of the Empire in death, excited Monica shouted behind Mingze. In fact, She didn't know that the reason why she was brainwashed so thoroughly so quickly was in this observation room. This observation room has been specially modified to emit electromagnetic waves that are synchronized with the special frequency of the human brain waves in the observation room, making it easy for people to let down their guard. Improve brainwashing efficiency by X10. Because Monica has been learning in the learning machine since she was a child, she has mastered a lot of basic knowledge, even including the use of various weapons, which makes her very fast to get started with the Empire's power armor and Gauss rifle. In just 1 week, she can easily hide a moving target 100 meters away with the shooting assistance turned off. The first task of the Freedom and Liberation Airborne Army is to go to the shelter where she was born under the leadership of Monica and retrieve the unique black technology learning machine of this civilization. Maybe the national technology tree on this planet is wrong, and the learning machine that the Empire is currently researching has appeared in this primary atomic energy civilization. To accelerate the growth efficiency of the Empire's population. As long as this learning machine technology is mastered, the Empire's 16-year-old children can enter society in advance, which simply adds a catalyst to the Empire's population growth efficiency. A population increase of 10 billion in 16 years is no longer a dream. By then, the Empire can speed up the pace of immigration. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing to have hundreds of planets with only a few million people each. Monica buckled the seat safety buckle, checked the data of the power armor, and nodded after confirming that it was correct. The first independent squad of the Free Liberation Airborne Army set off. The squad leader gave instructions to the driving AI after confirming that all the equipment was normal. The landing spacecraft detached from the exploration and research ship, and the engine ejected blue flames, pushing the spacecraft towards the suburbs of a ruined city on the planet. The airflow ejected by the landing auxiliary engine blew away the dry moss on the open space around the shelter elevator. The spacecraft hovered in the air, and Monica and others jumped down from the stern hatch, crossing and covering each other and moving towards the shelter elevator. "Sir, this elevator has stopped working without energy," a soldier who went to check the control console shouted. "Connect your power armor battery, and you stay on top to be on guard." "Yes." The soldier who checked the control console pulled out a universal connection cable from the power armor. After converting it into the shelter power style, it was plugged into the transformer. With a sound of gears turning, the elevator carrying Monica and a group of soldiers slowly descended into the shelter. Safe, safe, safe. After several team members who led the way confirmed that it was safe, everyone entered one after another. "This place is so shabby, with rust everywhere. I even doubt whether the equipment has turned into rust lumps," a researcher accompanying the team muttered. Everyone walked slowly inside, and suddenly, there was a sound in the ventilation duct above their heads, as if some creature was crawling in the ventilation duct. Everyone hurriedly aimed their weapons at the ventilation duct. But no more sound came, and everything returned to calm. The team leader calmly took out 3 spherical drones from the back armor bag and started them. The drones flashed red and flew into the shelter. "Sir, many humanoid heat sources were found in the shelter. Suspected survivors," a soldier responsible for observing drone information reported. The captain looked back at Monica. "Didn't you say that the shelter was unsurvivable after the riot and everyone fled to the ground? How come there are still people inside?" "I'm not lying, sir. Everyone either died or escaped with me. It's impossible to survive here without food and light," Monica frowned and replied. "We'll know if we go in and take a look. All team members stay alert and cover the way forward." Monica and others began to move forward into the darkness. They didn't know what kind of situation would be ahead. That was a nightmare that no one wanted to recall for the rest of their lives. This operation was eventually made into a horror movie and released in the Empire. It caused a huge response. Second update. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Nightmare in the Shelter. Monica and the others groped their way forward in the shelter. The thick fog made visibility only 5 meters. "Stop!" The leading soldier seemed to have discovered something wrong and shouted loudly. "Gase, what's wrong?" Mingze asked. "Sir, come and take a look at this," the leading team member Gase shouted at a pool of sticky unknown liquid. Everyone came forward and found that from this section of the corridor, the ground was full of brown-red unknown sticky liquid. The researcher with a team pulled out a probe from the armor on his shoulder and inserted it into the unknown liquid. He called up the monitor and frowned. This liquid contains a lot of nutrients and inorganic salts, albumin, enzymes and other substances. In other words, it is a kind of sticky blood, but it lacks iron and fibrinogen. Whatever it is, we will know it after we go in and take a look. Everyone nodded in agreement. Then everyone entered a room with hundreds of iron cans. These iron pipes could not be seen from the outside, but each can had a thin tube on it, and the tube was transporting unknown liquid into the barrel. Monica took the lead and kicked over a can. With a snap, an unknown object fell to the ground. Everyone looked closely and was shocked. On the ground was a human stick with limbs chopped off. There was a tube inserted into the esophagus of this human stick, which should be delivering liquids such as nutrient solution. Could it be that all the more than 100 cans were filled with human sticks with limbs chopped off? Everyone endured the nausea and opened the cans one by one. There was no doubt that the more than 100 tubes in the room were filled with human sticks with limbs chopped off. Increase your vigilance. Obviously this is purposeful, and it may be related to the liquids we found in the corridor. The commander frowned. Everyone used guns to free a famous stick. For them, only death was the only way to relieve their pain. Even if they were rescued, they would have collapsed. Everyone continued to go deeper along the corridor, and the sound of crawling came from the ventilation duct above the aisle again. But it disappeared soon. As soon as everyone put down their weapons, a black shadow rushed from the ventilation duct to Monica, who was at the end of the team. But Monica, who is proficient in fighting and killing, and wearing a power armor, is not so easy to be attacked. At the moment when the black shadow pounced, Monica stretched out her left hand to grab the black shadow's head and pressed it down. The high-frequency vibration knife popped out of her right hand and stabbed the black shadow's head. With a puff, the black shadow's head was pierced through by the vibration knife. Everyone saw the black shadow through the light. It was a person. A deformed person. This person's eyes were almost gray, which was due to not seeing the light for a long time. In addition, his skin was pale and his limbs were twisted, as if he was crawling with his hands and feet. The ears and antennae on this person's head became huge. Not only that, the canine teeth that should have degenerated like Monica's also became slender. Obviously, this person was deformed physically and mentally under extreme conditions. The researcher saved the scan information and blood samples of this person in the backpack, and everyone continued to move forward. In front of them was a huge alloy door, which was half open, and red liquid gushed out from the crack of the door from time to time. Mingze waved his hand, and a team member took out a grenade and flew towards the alloy door. After the grenade stuck to the alloy door, everyone huddled in the bunker. Mingze quickly pulled Monica, who was confused, into the bunker. It seemed that this girl had not learned the Empire's grenade usage standards. The power was so great that you had to find a bunker as soon as possible. Along with the explosion, several screams came from behind the door, followed by several roars. Use automatic rocket grenades. Everyone continued to hide. After that, Mingze threw another round grenade into the dark hole formed after the explosion. The grenade disintegrated in midair, and dozens of small guided missiles flew out of it, automatically locking onto the target according to infrared scanning and flying away. After a series of explosions, there was no sound behind the hole, and Mingze led the team to cover and enter. It must be said that the Advent stand-in is a good thing. It allows you to experience the excitement of the battlefield without worrying about your life. Mingze was shocked. Arriving at the hall after the explosion, it was a mess, with human remains everywhere on the ground. There was a huge hole at the back of the hall that led directly to the ground, and there was still fresh liquid in the hole. It seemed that some creature had escaped from here. Sir, the system detected that there is a secret room here. A soldier stood in front of a wall. Mingze looked up at Monica, and Monica understood and popped out the vibration knife and walked to the wall. With a piercing buzzing sound, the metal wall was cut by the vibration knife to create a hole that could accommodate one person. Monica walked in first, and it was empty inside, with only some moldy food and a dead body. There was a tablet next to the dead body. A day later, the recovery team recovered the broken learning machine, and the researchers also began to restore the data of the tablet they found. Your Majesty, you should see this. A researcher copied the restored tablet data to the superbrain and handed it to Mingze. Mingze opened the only video file in the superbrain. Shit, everyone is crazy. They are eating their own relatives. They are no longer human. I knew it would be like this. Every time I reminded my superiors, they said I was mentally ill. and sent me to this secret research institute. The background of the picture was a huge monitor, which showed a group of naked people on all fours, tearing something in their mouths. We are finished. I will not abide by any shitty confidentiality agreement anymore. We shouldn't study it. It's not an experiment. It's a demon. We shouldn't open Pandora's box. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. They can't erode my spirit. Ho ha ho ha, they can't erode my spirit. This person was obviously a little crazy at this time, mumbling something in his mouth. They are reborn. Demons have come to this world. Even nuclear weapons that destroy the world cannot destroy them. This group of mentally retarded politicians insist on researching when the world has been destroyed. You can't find their weaknesses. They are perfect creatures created by God. See. They have regained their footing. They control everyone in the institute. They are demons. They will bang this universe. This man ended his life with a pistol round. And a huge black shadow passed by the screen not far behind him. The picture disappeared, and Li Mingze's face was heavy. It seemed that he had found a huge trouble. It turned out that this civilization was not destroyed by civil war. It turned out that they used nuclear weapons to destroy the mysterious creature. The author is asking for recommendation votes. Woo woo, dear friends who have votes, please vote for recommendation, the third update in edition. Thank you KK, GM, Book Friend 869, Book Friend 42820, and Terry's Milan, Book Friend 150418, Book Friend 081012, 123 for your recommendation votes. Thank you for your support. Chapter 16, Fake. Burning Glass. After knowing that there is an unknown creature that can control people's thoughts on this planet, codenamed Dead Silence, Li Mingze decided to abandon this planet. Although this planet is still worth transforming, he does not intend to take such a big risk, and it may also cost the lives of his own people in the Empire. When he saw the black shadow at the end of the video, he always felt uneasy in his heart, which was also an important reason for him to make up his mind to abandon this planet. After the Orbital Airborne Army, hereinafter referred to as this abbreviation, team hurriedly rescued several normal survivors from the survivor gathering point back to orbit, Li Mingze issued an order to burn the glass of this planet. He was black-bellied and felt that if it was his own people who pressed the destruction switch, the natives of the planet would have a barrier in their hearts against the Empire no matter what. How can they still be cannon fodder? So he decided to let Monica press the destruction switch. Monica, I believe you have also seen this video. You must understand that the remaining ones are no longer your people. Li Mingze pressed Monica's shoulder and persuaded. But they, Monica hesitated. After all, these were the lives of tens of thousands of her people. They are now monsters transformed by Moming biology. This planet can no longer exist. You also know how dangerous they are. We must nip the danger in the bud. Li Mingze raised his voice. Monica slammed her head against the wall several times and finally made up her mind. She will purify this polluted planet. She walked slowly to the control console and slowly pressed the button. In the orbit of the dead star, 20 light cruisers and more than 30 bombing transport ships that had arrived were on standby, floating silently around the exploration and research ship. The moment Monica pressed the button, confirmation sounds from various ships came over the communication channel. Light cruiser A001 has received confirmation of orbital bombardment. Bombing will begin in 5 seconds. Light cruiser A002 has received confirmation of orbital bombardment. Bombing will begin in 5 seconds. Light cruiser A020. The launch ports on the lower hulls of the 20 light cruisers and bombing transport ships slowly opened, and large-yield Earth-penetrating fusion hydrogen bombs swarmed down. A total of 20,000 billion-ton Earth-penetrating nuclear bombs flew towards the dead star like raindrops. Inside the bridge, sir, all volcanoes and seismic zones targeted by this attack will be attacked in 30 seconds. It is expected that this orbital bombardment can activate 99.98% of the volcanoes on this planet and trigger a global magnitude 12 earthquake. The tsunami triggered at the same time will be as high as 230 meters. The shock wave generated by the fusion weapon will sweep the world within 50 minutes. After 32 hours, the surface will be covered with lava and the sea will boil. It is expected that 99.9997% of the creatures on this planet can be destroyed this time. Li Mingze nodded, and Monica beside him also shed tears. Her home planet was destroyed in her hands, and her traces of civilization would no longer exist. From now on, she can only rely on the Empire to survive. 30 seconds later, The entire planet lit up with dazzling light from far to near, and giant shock waves visible to the naked eye rippled on the surface of the planet. Just like a calm lake being hit by raindrops from a rainstorm. The entire planet was torn apart at a speed visible to the naked eye, and shocking huge rifts appeared in front of everyone. Magma gushed out of the rift valley, and the whole planet began to be slowly covered by lava. Then huge waves swarmed inland, and some continents began to sink, and a doomsday scene appeared in front of everyone. Everyone who saw this scene lamented the insignificance and fragility of life, and at the same time all the imperial soldiers secretly made up their minds. Even if they fought to the last drop of blood, they couldn't let this disaster befall the relatives of the Empire. At this moment, a huge roar suddenly came from everyone's mind. This roar was full of anger and unwillingness. A huge tentacle on the land in the distance was quickly swallowed by magma after struggling in its death. Mingze was shocked. It can transmit mental signals to the minds of everyone in orbit. What a terrifying existence. Fortunately, it was destroyed in the cradle. The atmosphere in the bridge was very heavy. They had just destroyed a planet with their own hands, which made it difficult for people to adapt immediately. Mingze's words broke the silence. Wait until the surface cools down and dispatch a large number of drones. I want to make sure that mysterious creature is not still alive. The Empire's 2-year nuclear weapon stockpile has just been used up, and we no longer have the ability to launch another orbital bombardment. So don't let that damn creature develop any further. If you find any abnormalities, don't report them, just destroy them on the spot. After saying that, Mingze walked out of the bridge and returned to the hibernation chamber. In the blue brick capital of the Empire, Mingze took off the consciousness transmission helmet on his head and climbed out of the Advent chamber. Although he had been holding back, every time he thought of the bloody human flesh factory, he felt sick to his stomach. He didn't feel anything in the Advent substitute, but this feeling was immediately magnified after returning to the original body. After all, his predecessor was an ordinary college student. 10 days later, Your Majesty, in compliance with your will, we have classified the star series where the dead silent star is located as a 3A level dead star system, and no one is allowed to enter the star system. And we have sent a large number of robots to the dead silent star to build an observation station. In addition, our scientists have cracked the sleep learning machine and absorbed it into our own technology tree. At present, the Sith factory has begun to produce an improved version of the sleep learning machine. It is expected to be popularized throughout the Sith Star in 7 days and popularized to all colonies in 1 month. The new sleep learning machine allows our citizens to enter the consciousness space to study while sleeping at night. The time flow rate is twice that of the outside world, and the learning efficiency has increased by 500%. Soon our empire will have more outstanding scientists emerging. Several officials reported to Mingze on the latest progress of several events on the screen. The cracking and popularization of the sleep learning machine can be said to have sprinkled a ray of sunshine on Mingze's originally gloomy mood. The emergence of the sleep learning machine not only means an increase in scientists and an acceleration of scientific research. It also means that citizens of the Empire can complete all basic courses from elementary school to doctoral degree in higher universities at the age of 16, which means that they can leave their families and form an independent population unit at the age of 16. This is very powerful for the expansion of the Empire's territory. The speed of military training can also be accelerated. Soldiers who originally needed several years to learn combat skills before they could leave the barracks now only need a few months. But Mingze, who was immersed in joy, did not know that when the destroyed civilization thawed the corpse of this creature, the disaster that swept the entire galaxy had already begun to come. His elimination of this strange creature only delayed the arrival of the disaster by decades. Thank you, book friends, and we'll see. Arwam, Hanyu loves you, 189,981, Wu Ji Xiao, 846,669,422 for your recommendation votes. Mua. Chapter 17. 1 year. A year has passed since the destruction of the surface of the dead star. During this year, the Empire has developed rapidly under the leadership of Mingze. The home star system, beta star system, X star system and several mother stars and colony star systems have developed steadily. During this year, the Empire colonized 2 more planets, expanding the territory of the Empire to 30 light years. During this year, various military technologies have been developed, including a new hypersonic engine with a shorter cooling time, a more powerful and faster fusion missile, a lattice defense system, a new ship armor, and the most basic red laser weapon. During this year, the Empire's mining stations are spread all over the Empire's star field, and power generation centers are built throughout the Empire. During this year, more than 5 million citizens of the Empire have become researchers, and during this year, 100,000 people have been promoted to scientists. During this year, the Empire's scientific research centers have sprung up on every planet with research value. During this year, the number of docks in the Empire has reached 20. 20 light cruisers can be built at the same time in 1 month. This year, the Empire's exploration and scientific research ships have reached an astonishing 30, and these scientific research ships shuttle through various star systems, looking for resources and new colonies for the Empire. This year, the Empire's fleet reached 50 light cruisers. This year, Li Mingze still didn't find a partner. In Li Mingze's bedroom, the original black and red decoration was replaced by a white-based, black supplemented decoration style. In his words, he was tired of it after 3 years. He was rich and willful. Change the decoration style. Li Mingze climbed out of the quilt. Being an emperor, especially the emperor of such a developed empire, has an advantage. Unless it's a big deal, no one dares to disturb you. This allows him to live a happy life of sleeping until he wakes up naturally every day. But today is different. Today he was woken up by the alarm clock because today is the day when the Empire's first destroyer was launched. As the mainstay of the Empire's low-level warships, the SR-class destroyer, its research and development and manufacturing are not easy. Because this warship is an astonishing 800 meters long, 60 meters wide, and has a tonnage of 400,000 tons. According to the shipbuilding cost, 0.1 minerals are consumed per cubic meter. A destroyer will cost 400,000 mineral points, which is 3 times the cost of a light cruiser. Although the firepower has only increased by 2 times, the survivability of the warship has been greatly enhanced. After 3 years, Li Mingze once again came to the shipyard space station on the Sith moon. Compared with the empty shipyard 3 years ago, the current space station has been built into a small space city. A huge ring-shaped city is located above the original shipyard. Soldiers and their relatives who are stationed on the moon all year round live here. The whole city is like a sea of joy. People hold the flag of the Empire in their hands and block the huge glass windows on the edge of the city. Li Mingze did not come in person, but descended on a bionic man whose face no one recognized. He planned to participate in this meaningful launch activity from the perspective of an imperial civilian. In a high-end apartment in the space city, the bookcase in the study slowly moved to both sides, and Li Mingze, dressed in casual clothes, walked out of it. Taking the elevator to the street, Li Mingze mixed in with the crowd and rushed to the edge of the city. He also shamelessly waved a small flag in his hand to set the rhythm. Long live the great emperor! Long live the Empire! Long live the great emperor! Long live the Empire! People on the street also shouted one after another, and the rhythm was really led astray by Li Mingze. Looking out from the French windows at the edge of the city, facing the 5 huge docks blooming like flowers, one of which has the top armor sliding to both sides. It's coming out, some excited people couldn't help shouting. I saw a huge warship painted in matte black slowly leaving the dock under the illumination of dozens of light beams from the space station. The beam cannon on the hull began to rotate rhythmically, but it did not store energy. A team of aerospace fighters circled the huge ship several times, causing the onlookers to whistle non-stop. At this time, the voice of the announcer came from the space station. Dear citizens of the Empire, what you are seeing now is the Empire's first-generation SR-class destroyer. This battleship is equipped with a medium red beam cannon, 2 light red beam cannons and 4 light fusion missile launchers, as well as 6 lattice defense systems. The entire ship can carry 1,500 planetary bombing weapons. The launch of this battleship marks that our Empire has the ability to say no among the stars. This is the prelude to a new era. The Empire will be assisted by more and more advanced battleships and led by the great Emperor. Unify the stars. Long live His Majesty. Long live the Empire. After the broadcast, people's cheers surged like a wave, shaking Li Mingze's eardrums. But he was also very pleased. Such a high voice showed that he was deeply loved by the people. From this moment on, he changed his view of these citizens. If he used to only regard these as NPCs and numbers, now his view of these people has been raised to the level of, since you love me so much, I will relax some restrictions on you, such as lifting the ban on games, Li Mingze said shamelessly to himself. That's right. During the day, you can use the technology of the sleep learning machine to create an interstellar war game, so that those idle soldiers can learn how to fight and how to cooperate in a team. When the war comes, they will be full of reserve soldiers. And the Empire can also find highly skilled talents from them, such as pilots of aerospace fighters. Not only that, if the income from the war is increased, this game can also increase the enthusiasm of soldiers to join the army. Let them look forward to war. Let them be happy to go to war. This is simply adding a nuclear fusion engine to the imperial chariot that is rolling forward. Li Mingze found that he was really a genius. He could think of such a good idea. It seems that ruling the stars is just around the corner. After returning to the office, he immediately summoned relevant scientists, researchers, and engineers. Prepare to personally start making this game. In fact, the main reason is that he used to be a jerk who could only read novels and fantasize about this kind of consciousness holographic game. Now he can create it by himself. How cool it is. It is so cool that it penetrates the heart. He can't wait and has already started to design the plot. 10 minutes later, it's good to say that the ancients said that every profession has its own specialty. A great leader like me should not design the plot, otherwise others will be ashamed to see the perfect game I designed. Ha ha, ha, ha. Li Mingze smiled awkwardly and silently smashed the tablet in his hand. Come here, my tablet accidentally fell, and bring me a new tablet, and clean it up. By the way, I'm going to sleep. P.S. In order to quickly advance the plot, the author has accelerated it for a year, and the first climax of this book is about to come. In addition, thank you President Yuan, Grian ZGSH, Book Friend 131016, Book Friend 565, KK, Arwam, Book Friend NVLC, Dizhu, Guang, 150,418 drops of recommendation votes. Chapter 18 Military Incubator. It is 9 a.m. on December 10, 2023. The weather is sunny, the UV index is 5, and the wind speed is northwest 3 meters per second. It is recommended to go out for exercise. Yu turned over and knocked the alarm clock to the ground. He is 35 years old this year and has achieved nothing. He can only stay at home every day to watch movies and novels, play games, and rely on the subsidies of the imperial government to have enough food, clothing and clothing. In this highly developed mechanical society, people like him are everywhere. However, after the announcement of the new policy of His Majesty the Emperor 3 years ago, the resources of the entire empire began to tilt towards science and technology and industry, and society reduced entertainment. Since then, no fun games have been born, which made him feel that his life has lost its meaning. However, a week ago, His Majesty the Emperor relaxed the control of games and called on scientists and engineers to personally develop a holographic game based on the sleep learning machine, and it is completely free. As early as 3 days ago, major TV stations and optical network websites in the Empire began to promote this super game. Judging from the real pictures released, the entire game world is very realistic and very free in it. This made him, a game geek, very excited. So he set the alarm early on the day of the official public beta of the game, which was very rare for someone like him who slept until he woke up naturally every day. Yu walked into the bathroom with confused eyes, and after washing, he lay in the sleep learning machine, waiting for the official public beta of the game at 10 o'clock. Beep, beep, beep. Yu, who had been prepared for a long time, was directly pulled into a blank space, in which he chose to become a pilot of an aerospace fighter. Although steel battleships are men's favorite, a battleship requires dozens of people to start, which is unacceptable to an individual hero like him. The new player Yu was directly teleported to the cabin of the fighter. Yu touched his face and then touched the operating table. Everything was so real. It was so real that he couldn't tell which was real and which was virtual. This is the tutorial for beginners. The warships of the Parker Alliance have entered the low Earth orbit of the Sith. The fighters they sent are bombing the ground cities. Your mission is to stop the bombers and fighters of the Parker Alliance and destroy the enemy's light cruisers. The fighters will be launched in 5 seconds. A cold female voice came from the system. Yu hurriedly concentrated his mind and focused on the mind control system. In an instant, he felt that he and the fighter were connected as one. Bang! The huge thrust pushed the fighter from underground into the anti-gravity acceleration orbit. The fighter was getting faster and faster in the orbit and soon exceeded the speed of sound. At this time, the fighter happened to fly out of the hole in the ground and made a huge sonic boom. Under the propulsion of two particle engines, it rushed into the sky. Several fighters ejected from the orbit at the same time formed a herringbone formation in the air and flew towards the distant city. The broken fragments of the building fell from the sky. Yu rolled around the fragments flexibly. The Parker Alliance fighter, following closely behind, had not reacted before it plunged into the fragments and burst into a large group of sparks. Yu flexibly shuttled between the buildings, and from time to time used the cover of the tall buildings to sneak attack the enemy's fighter planes from behind, and the Alliance's fighter planes were beaten to flee. But he did not notice that on his right, an Alliance fighter plane used its airborne cannon to smash the middle of the tall building, flew out of the hole, and crashed into Yu's fighter plane, obviously intending to replace the Empire's elite pilot 1. Boom. Yu's eyes turned black, and a huge line of words "mission failed. You have died," occupied the entire line of sight. 2 months later, Colonel UN. This is the 523rd enemy plane you have shot down without loss this month. You have broken Colonel Xiaolang's record of shooting down without loss. Congratulations on winning the Empire's Imperial Eagle Medal. After 2 months of training, Yu can be said to be the top ace pilot in the game. He has shot down 523 enemy planes without being shot down himself, and has participated in 32 large and small battles. In addition to his non-stop playing games day and night, it is also related to his talent. Some people may be born ace pilots, or ace captains, or battlefield staff officers who are proficient in strategy. But usually they are lost in the crowd, and only through this game can their talents be excavated. After a long time of playing games, they also became fond of this profession in the game. They are used to life in the cockpit, command room, and orbital airborne cabin. They are used to war. One morning, Yu was still planning to enter the game and fight for a day as usual. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Yu walked to the door and opened the access control. In front of him were two non-commissioned officers in military uniforms, a man and a woman. Yu was shocked. He has not done anything to betray the Empire. He just plays games every day. "Hello, are you Mr. Yu? We are officials from the Imperial Recruitment Office. Can you open the door and let us in to chat?" the female officer said. "Oh, yes, please come in." After that, Yu opened the door and welcomed the two officers into the house. The female officer looked around the room and slowly asked, "Mr. Yu, you don't have a lover? Don't you feel empty? As the winner of the Imperial Eagle, your achievements should not be limited to this. You can become a hero that everyone in the Empire is looking forward to. Have you ever considered joining the Imperial Air Force? Becoming a real airspace fighter pilot and doing your best for the Empire? Do you want me to join the Imperial Air Force?" Yu was surprised. Although he was used to flying fighters and fighting with others, he was still a little hesitant to give up his peaceful life and join the Imperial Air Force. "Mr. Yu, you should know that there are many female officers in the Air Force. If you join the Air Force with your strength, you will definitely become one of the top ace pilots. At that time, those girls will admire you very much." The words of the female officer became the last straw that broke the camel's back. Yu no longer hesitated this time. He nodded heavily. He pressed his fingerprint on the voluntary enlistment agreement. After giving Yu a day to pack her luggage, the female officer and her followers left Yu's home. They had another family to go to. Xiaolang was also a very good ace pilot. The Empire hoped to add all of them to the Imperial Army. The chariot of the Empire finally began to accelerate continuously, and it was about to crush all those who stood in its way. In fact, the author originally wanted to make a domestic game, but failed shamefully. Here I commemorate the lost dream. Please vote TT. In addition, thank you for your recommendation votes from Dutch 123, Hanai Loves You, and Benzizifhut, Upright Arrow. Chapter 19, The Dust-Covered Supervirus. Inside a huge space station on the orbit of Fujiii. Incredible. This is the first time I have encountered such a magical virus, an old man standing in the isolation room muttered. This inconspicuous old man is Dr. Liu Siki, the chief virus biologist of the Empire. Dr. Liu Siki used his mind to control the robot in the isolation room to inject the virus into several separated culture media. Li Mingze, who was standing next to him, asked curiously, "Oh, Dr. Liu, how magical is this virus? Tell me, Your Majesty, this magical virus can disguise itself by engulfing healthy cells. Their appearance changes with the engulfed cells. If I hadn't put this virus into the culture medium with my own hands, I wouldn't even know that there is a virus here. Moreover, this virus is extremely camouflaged, and the existing detection equipment can't detect this virus at all. After that, the old man controlled the robot to release the nanomedical robot into the culture medium. Nanomedical robots are a kind of medical device used by the Empire and even the known Parker Alliance. This kind of robot is the crystallization of technology when civilization has developed to a certain level. This kind of robot can not only eliminate harmful viruses, bacteria, cancer cells, etc. that invade the body of an organism. It can also plug wounds and repair internal organs by self-replication. It can be said to be a must-have for home and travel. However, the nanomedical robots, which are invincible in the face of unknown viruses, did not make any moves this time. They ignored the cells around them that were devoured by the virus. They wandered aimlessly in the culture medium. You see, this virus can not only disguise itself in appearance, but also disguise itself as healthy cells in electromagnetic, radiation and other signals, making it impossible for any medical device to start. Let me show you the more magical part of this virus. Then, the old scientist controlled the robot to aim the micro-laser transmitter on its arm at a cell that seemed healthy, but had actually been devoured by the virus. A beam of light invisible to the naked eye was emitted, and the targeted cell was shattered by the microsurgical laser in the blink of an eye, but, under the gaze of Mingze and others, this cell that had been broken into slag began to gather together, and after a few seconds it became what it was before being shattered. As if nothing had happened just now. This virus can actually be reborn, Mingze asked in surprise. That's right, Your Majesty. Before the energy swallowed by the virus is consumed, it can be reborn an unlimited number of times, but once the energy in the body is consumed, it will be completely destroyed. Moreover, according to the records of the civilization destroyed by this virus, the incubation period of this virus is as long as 3 months, and the infected person will die after 3 months. And it cannot be cured after being infected with this virus. It can only be prevented by injecting a vaccine containing special pheromones in advance, so that the virus will mistakenly think that this is an infected individual, but fortunately, their survival time in nature is very short, only 10 days. And its genetic structure is very stable and will not mutate. Dr. Liu Siki, who is still obsessed with the research of this super virus, slowly explained to Mingze. Well, very good. You weaponize it as soon as possible. I want to use it in the next war. Mingze nodded with satisfaction and ordered, and then turned and left the isolation observation room. Yes, Great Majesty, Dr. Liu shouted behind him. That's right, the virus that Mingze just visited was the Javon plague that destroyed the ancient civilization Irazan Alliance. This super virus actually infected the Irazan civilization that ruled the starry sky to the point where there was no healthy person left. Even if the Irazan civilization finally developed a vaccine, it would be useless. The information that Irazan was destroyed by the super virus gave His Majesty Mingze a good inspiration. He is not a gentleman knight in ancient Europe, and he must fight a fair and just decisive battle. No. I just don't take the usual path. I fight a wretched virus war. So after making up his mind to carry forward the alternative tactics, he secretly ordered the construction of this space station that was not recorded in the archives, and dispatched several elite imperial biological scientists to this space station in the name of researchers using garbage disposal bacteria. And the sealed Javon plague supervirus was transferred here for more detailed research. Since the discovery of the Parker Alliance next to him, the Parker Alliance, which is only 20 light years away, has been like a mountain that has made the Empire breathless. The other side has too many member states, a wide territory, and a very large fleet. Although the Empire has developed ship-borne shields for the opponent's energy weapons, if a head-on battleship decisive battle is fought, the Empire will not be able to develop its fleet for another 5 or 10 years. So Mingze decided to take an unconventional approach and disintegrate them from within the enemy. At the same time, in order to prevent the virus from accidentally leaking into the Empire, the enemy did not die but he himself was killed. The Empire not only injected special vaccines for all citizens, slaves, and death squads, surrendered aliens, half a year ago, but also distributed a set of protective clothing to each person from door to door just in case. In addition, special detection equipment was developed for this virus. Mingze believes this unconventional weapon will definitely surprise his enemies. A few days later, a large dock was built next to the Fujiii orbital space station. This dock will be responsible for building the ambassador ship that will visit the Parker Alliance in 3 months. This special warship has no weapons system, and its mission is to carry the ambassador to visit the Parker Alliance. After several years of exploration, Mingze found that the opposite direction of the Parker Alliance is the barren star region of the Milky Way. The rare resources in this newly born star region are very scarce. Even the planets with life are pitifully few. In the 431 star systems explored by the Empire's exploration and research ship, in addition to the colonized ones, there are only a few planets with life, and these planets are completely unsuitable for human survival. And with the current technology of the Empire, it will take hundreds of years to transform these planets. Mingze doesn't have that much time. Although with the advancement of technology, his upper limit of life will continue to increase, but who knows whether he can live forever. Then these hundreds of years of golden development time must not be wasted. This also shows. Want to develop. The Parker Alliance is a wall that cannot be avoided. Mingze must use his hard fist to smash it open. Becoming a member country to guard a few planets for development is something he can't stand. The stumbling blocks that block the Empire's progress will be crushed. Visit the Parker Alliance. It is the beginning of the Empire's march to the throne of the stars. This war will determine the fate of the Empire. The author has created a group 222,745,490. Let's chat when we are free. In addition, thank you for the recommendation votes of Dark Moon Canyon, Book Friend 150,418, and Book Friend 131,016. Chapter 20 The New Trojan Horse. In a galaxy located at the border of the Parker Alliance, a 300-meter-long slender warship jumped out of hyperspace under the escort of 4 destroyers. The fleet's weapons were not activated, and all the gun barrels were facing the right, slowly moving towards the only planet in this galaxy. This is Milky Space Station. The Sith Empire's envoys have arrived in the Milky galaxy. The escort warships are about to set off. A beam of quantum communication was sent from Milky to the Alliance's capital, the Andorra galaxy. Milky received, send a fleet to escort the Sith Empire's ambassador fleet, and kill them if the other side makes any attacking moves. After receiving the order, 6 destroyers in the port of the space station started their engines and left the planet's orbit, heading towards the Sith Empire's envoys. As early as 10 days ago, our Imperial Emperor Mingze sent a signal to the Parker Alliance, informing the Parker Alliance that our Sith Empire will soon go to your alliance for the first diplomatic note. If possible, our empire is willing to join the alliance. What a bunch of nonsense. The alliance was surprised and happy when it received the news. They were surprised because they didn't know when a new country had risen next to the alliance, and they were happy because the old alliance had not had any fresh blood join for a long time. A newly rising empire wants to join the alliance. Doesn't this mean that our alliance is awesome? The top leaders of the alliance fantasized. So they attached great importance to the delegation sent by the Sith Empire this time. The top leaders of the alliance invited the delegation to the alliance's capital star system, Andorra, for a face-to-face meeting. However, in order to prevent the Sith Empire from cheating halfway, they still specially sent 6 destroyers to escort. The escort was actually surveillance. After the 6 destroyers met with the Sith Empire's delegation, they flashed the ship's lights, and after confirming that everything was correct, they slowly turned around and guarded around the delegation fleet. 11 warships moved to the edge of the star system, flashing blue electric light and disappearing. After dozens of jumps, the fleet reached the orbit of the capital star of the Parker Alliance. The capital star of the Parker Alliance is a desert planet. The planet, which was originally densely vegetated, was overdeveloped during the rise of the founding country of the Parker Alliance. After the development of science and technology, the Alliance did not reconstruct and restore the capital planet in order to let future generations remember this lesson. A huge space station floats at the equator of the withered yellow planet. The space station is connected to the capital planet through a space elevator. Although the space station is still in an orbit where it can weakly feel gravity, it is firmly suspended in the air due to the inertia generated by the high-speed rotation of the planet. Dozens of huge piers extend like spider webs. This is the open airport of the space station. Because there are too many ships docked every day, the indoor port has to be abandoned and expanded into an open air one to meet the huge throughput. The ambassador ship shut down its engine and docked in the port under the towing of the tugboat. The ambassadors of the Sith Empire left the spacecraft and boarded the transport vehicle in the port. The transport vehicle carried everyone to the special diplomatic reception hall. On both sides of the hall stood the Parker Alliance's Guard of Honor, and at the end of the hall stood the Parker Alliance's senior officials. The Imperial Ambassador Moda walked slowly towards the Parker senior management, and the two sides held hands tightly together. The reporter on the side took a picture of this moment and prepared to write a news report. It symbolizes the friendship between the two countries. Of course, that is impossible. Later generations commented on this photo as follows: "On this day, we touched the real devil." The Imperial Ambassador and the Alliance senior management were having a pleasant conversation. In the distant port, a few flashes suddenly burst out from the outer shell of the docked ambassador ship. Then there was a violent explosion at the flashing place, and the explosion spread to the stern and all the way to the reactor of the spacecraft. A violent vibration. The entire spacecraft was torn into thousands of pieces by the violent explosion and flew towards the planet below the spaceport. The fragments were rubbed into balls of fire by the atmosphere, and the skyscrapers were hit with gaps. The people on the planet looked curiously at the hundreds and thousands of fireballs falling from the sky at the space elevator. What they didn't know was that these fireballs carried devils. That's right, this visit of the ambassadors to the Parker Alliance was Li Mingze's plan. Taking advantage of this great opportunity, the ambassador ship filled with supervirus containers was docked at the capital of the Parker Alliance, and then the ambassador ship was detonated by himself, spreading the fire of death to the enemy's capital star. Because of the 3-month incubation period, it can be guaranteed that these fires of death can spread throughout the enemy's territory, making it impossible for the enemy fleet to exert its combat power. At the same time, he also obtained the reason for the war against the Parker Alliance: "You attacked our ambassador ship." Perfect. At this time, the hull of the space station was in chaos. The guards of both the Empire and the Alliance each surrounded their own senior officials to prevent the other party's people from doing harm to their superiors. As a diplomat, Moda was naturally smooth and ruthless. He knew the importance of taking the initiative and shouted loudly, "Is this the way your alliance treats guests? Openly attacking our ambassador ship? It's simply shameless." The translator conveyed Moda's original words to the ears of many senior officials of the alliance. He held back the words he was going to question the Empire's ambassadors, and even began to doubt whether there were really restless elements who carried out sabotage actions on the ambassador ship. After all, as long as there is such a loose democratic state, there will always be a small group of opponents. In order to prevent diplomatic incidents, the top leaders of the alliance could only reply, "Our alliance will never do such a thing. We will investigate the specific situation in detail. If it is really our internal personnel who caused the sabotage, we will definitely give your country an explanation. No. I will report this bad thing to your Majesty truthfully, and sever our diplomatic relations before your Majesty makes a decision." After that, the ambassador of the Empire waved his sleeves and left angrily surrounded by guards. The 4 frigates of the Empire quickly left the Parker Alliance and returned to the Empire. In fact, Ambassador Mo didn't know what the explosion of his ambassador ship was, but no matter whose fault it was, he could only take the initiative to make the other party speechless and put the blame on the other party first. This is to blame Li Mingze. When he formulated the Trojan horse plan, he didn't tell anyone except the chief scientist, including Ambassador Mo this time. Because he was worried that if the other party had a detector that could read brain waves, and then found that the ambassador was abnormal, the plan would fail. He couldn't afford to cause the other party's anger in advance if the plan failed, so even if someone had to sacrifice, it was for the Empire. Thank you Awam, Hanai loves you, Shuai 100 Shuai 165,315, Dutch 123, ZZWWHH 1124, Shuai on C, Soul Dad, Shuai and 290D? Wins for your recommendation votes. Chapter 21 Virus Spreads. 3 months have passed since the explosion of the ambassador ship. During these 3 months, Li Mingze built warships that far exceeded his maintenance capacity. Countless destroyers and light cruisers poured out of the dock like dumplings. Today is an important day, not only because today is the outbreak time of the supervirus, but also because today is the day when the Empire declares war on the Parker Alliance. Li Mingze stood in front of the camera in a general's uniform and announced to the citizens of the Empire in front of the camera that the Empire has entered a state of war. Because the Parker Alliance shamelessly attacked our ambassador ship. As a result, several brave Imperial Navy soldiers have no chance to return to the Empire. We must make these stupid Alliance people pay the price. Long live the Empire, Li Mingze said, and finally raised his right arm and shouted loudly. Long live the Empire! Countless people, whether they are on the Sith Star, the new home star, or the mining station at the end of the frontier, at this moment, they couldn't help but stand up and raise their right hands to the screen. At this moment, the blood in the hearts of the entire Empire people boiled. They have been suppressed for too long, and they have longed for war for too long. The word war is engraved in the genes of the Empire people. After a long period of fermentation in the war virtual game fantasy, it finally got a vent at this moment. People sent their metal statues, kitchen utensils, etc. in their homes to the Empire Metal Recycling Center, and the recycling center broke these metals into mineral points to be used in the manufacture of new warships. People are shouting. The recruitment offices in various parts of the Empire are crowded with people. Whether young or middle-aged and elderly, they all want to dedicate their short lives to the Empire. Li Mingze's advent substitute slowly woke up on the Empire flagship, packed up, and came to the bridge surrounded by the crowd. Standing in front of the command seat in the center of the bridge, Li Mingze was full of vigor and energy. Today will be the first day that the Empire really begins to extend its claws deep into the stars. All warships listen to the order. After 5 hours of preparation, we will send troops to the Parker Alliance. All warships must not retreat a step on the battlefield. Get ready to go. After a 5-hour countdown, a fleet consisting of 300 light cruisers and 100 destroyers flashed blue electric light in the direction of the Parker Alliance. It was a day off, and Mafta and his wife were preparing to spend a beautiful and romantic night at home. But his wife didn't come out of the bathroom for nearly an hour after entering it, and there was no sign of life. Honey, are you okay? Can you call me? Did you fall in there? Mafta said as he opened the bathroom door. Everything he saw made his hair stand on end. The whole bathroom was covered with dark green blood, and his wife had fallen beside the bathtub without a sign of life. This is not an isolated case. Within a few minutes, tens of thousands of such terrible situations occurred throughout the Parker Alliance. The Alliance urgently closed all the super time and space routes between the colonies and the member countries, and sent all the top forensic doctors, biologists, and senior detectives. After a detailed investigation lasting 10 hours, after another 500,000 deaths in the entire alliance, it was finally determined that this was caused by an undetectable super virus. The instruments used to detect this virus are also being developed intensively, but it is too late. This super virus has spread throughout the alliance. The entire alliance fell into panic, as if the end of the world has come. People hid at home and were unwilling to participate in social activities. Soldiers were unwilling to return to the army. They couldn't stand the multi-person dormitories in the army. At this moment, the Democratic Alliance became chaotic and disorderly in the face of disaster. Even the officers of the corrupt army were unwilling to go out again. They cherished their lives. Unfortunately, no matter how they stayed away from the crowd, countless people continued to die. The 3-month incubation period infected a large number of the Alliance's population. The Alliance soon realized that something was wrong, because according to the time and distribution pattern of the outbreak of this super virus, this virus outbreak was definitely related to the Empire. Because all the patients in the first outbreak had lived in the capital of Andorra for a period of time, 3 months ago. And this period of time happened to be when the Imperial ambassador ship exploded. The evil Empire must have carried biological weapons on the spacecraft, used the fragments to bring it to the city, and then used the extremely long incubation period to allow the natural flow of the Alliance population to bring the virus to the entire Alliance. What a vicious plan. They had guessed it almost, but unfortunately they did not guess that this virus could not be cured, so they still tilted all resources into medical treatment and isolation. The economy of the entire Alliance was shut down. At the border of the Alliance, the fleet of the Sith Empire flashed with lightning and drove out of hyperspace. Send out 10 light cruisers and go to the border star systems of the 10 alliances to harass them. Use inflatable battleship models to create the illusion of a fleet outside the enemy star system, and lure the enemy's remaining main force to disperse, Li Mingze ordered. Yes, sir. 10 special light cruisers left the fleet, dragging huge cargo boxes, and entered hyperspace towards their respective goals. Parker Alliance Supreme Command. The entire command center was dead silent. Everyone was wearing protective clothing and slumped in their seats listlessly. No one knew if they were infected. No one knew if they would spit blood and fall down in the next moment. This kind of horrible unknown was the most tormenting to the spirit. Oh no, sir. 10 border galaxies have discovered large fleets of the enemy. An intelligence officer rushed into the command room. Oh? How many ships can the main fleet still take off? An officer asked with a perk, but unfortunately, the long period of malaise had drained his body. Sir, the first, second, and third main fleets have less than half of the total number of warships that can take off, and even this half is not full. A large number of officers and soldiers have died at work. Now a large number of soldiers and officers have refused to obey orders and returned to their hometowns, a data officer said embarrassedly. Let the first and second fleet split into 10 squadrons. The third fleet will stay in the capital star system. At the same time, let the independent fleets of the member countries cooperate with us to resist foreign enemies. Yes, sir. The first fleet and the second fleet of the Alliance docked in the port, started their reactors one after another, split into 10 small fleets and jumped towards the star systems that needed to be defended. Brothers and sisters, I don't ask for much, just a recommendation. Vote for this book, thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Pick the Softest Persimmons. Your Majesty, according to the detectors we launched in advance, the enemy's fleet has been dispersed, and the number of ships they have taken off has only reached half of the original number. At present, the independent fleets of the member states have not shown any signs of taking off, Tianyi reported beside Li Mingze. Okay, all troops will attack. Target the enemy's first fleet. Quick battle and quick decision. Yes, sir. The Imperial fleet hidden outside the border started the jump engine towards the enemy's dispersed first fleet. Bridge of the Parker Alliance's first fleet commander Harmon was sitting decadently on the command seat, and his vigilant eyes swept over the crew in the bridge from time to time. He had become nervous, always feeling that there were infected people around who wanted to infect him with the virus. This made him dare not even contact his secretary. Sir, after jumping out of hyperspace ahead, we will reach the destination A4423 galaxy, the hyperspace pilot reported to Harmon. Harmon squinted and nodded gently, indicating that he had received it. No. The armor damage rate exceeds 90%. The damage rate of the warships has reached 35%. There are enemies everywhere. We can't hold on. After the fleet jumped out of hyperspace, countless missiles and red beams were seen. The huge explosion threw the unprepared Commander Harmon to the ground. This is an ambush. Sir. There are too many enemies. Our engine has been destroyed, the intelligence officer cried to Harmon with a sad face. With a bang, the huge explosion tore a huge hole in the bridge. The intelligence officer who was still shouting just now was sucked into the universe. Harmon felt that the surroundings around him became quiet. The vacuum environment made him unable to hear any sound. There were only violent explosions and huge beams in sight. Harmon saw with horror that a missile was shot at him. He suddenly felt that the space around his body seemed to have solidified. It was impossible to escape. He closed his eyes in despair. Well, I don't have to worry about when I will die from the virus infection. This may be a relief. This was his last thought before he was blown into pieces by the explosion. A few minutes later, only the wreckage of the Alliance fleet's spaceships remained on the originally fierce battlefield. Everything happened so quickly. The fleet was wiped out without even sending a distress signal. The reason why this ambush tactic was successful was that the Empire detected the fleet entering hyperspace through a detector before accelerating into the radar range of the galaxy, and the spacecraft could not receive any information in hyperspace. The Empire used this subtle time difference to quickly bypass the space station and ambush the Alliance fleet's jump exit. There will be electric light and energy leakage at the exit before jumping out of hyperspace. A gap was opened through the Alliance capital star, but Li Mingze did not intend to attack the capital star directly. The Imperial fleet continued to activate hyperspace towards the Alliance's second fleet. Although the other fleets of the Alliance received news that a large number of Imperial fleets appeared here, due to the long distance between galaxies, there was a time difference for other fleets to get here. Li Mingze's goal was to use the time difference and number advantage to eat up as many fleets as possible before the enemy realized his plan. Using this tactic, the enemy was put into an embarrassing situation where they would come to die continuously. You know, the power of hundreds of warships and dozens of warships is completely different. The damage ratio of both sides may reach an astonishing 110. The initial version of the shield is the latest research result of the Empire. It has the function of self-repair. As long as the main body of the Imperial fleet equipped with the initial version of the shield is not destroyed, the shield will slowly self-repair until it is restored to its original state. The second squadron is accelerating towards the edge of the galaxy. Because of the different positions between the galaxies, the position where they jumped out of the hyperspace and the position where the Empire jumped out of the hyperspace are separated by a whole galaxy. It's too late. When the second squadron just reached 2/3 of the journey, the Empire's fleet jumped out of the hyperspace. All warships, all main weapons are fired, and concentrate firepower to eliminate the opponent's destroyers first. The power of their cruiser weapons is not a big threat to our fleet, so leave it to the end, Mingze ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. The Imperial fleet aimed their beam cannons at the enemy's destroyers, and hundreds of beams gushed out after a few breaths. Hundreds of warships shone their red lasers on the armor of the Alliance destroyer, like a red-hot blade cutting into tofu, instantly tearing the destroyer to pieces. Behind the beams arrived countless fusion missiles. The beam weapons of the Alliance fleet fired desperately, trying to intercept the missiles in midair, but there were too many missiles. The laser attack seemed pale and powerless. Thousands of small light balls as bright as the sun were produced with the explosion of the missiles. The head-hulls melted like summer ice cream. The Alliance fleet lost 2/3 of its personnel as soon as it entered the range. By the time they desperately came to the Imperial fleet, the second wave of missiles had already left the launch bay. The commander of the Alliance fleet issued a surrender order in despair. After receiving the surrender order, all Alliance warships turned their guns, shut down their engines and waited for the Imperial Marines to receive them. The missiles that were about to fly braked one after another, turned slightly and flew towards the rear of the fleet, exploding into countless small light spots in the distance. On the landing ships following the fleet, hundreds of landing ships took off one after another and quickly received the surrendered Alliance warships. After all the Alliance prisoners were detained, the reserve fleet crew quickly took over the Alliance warships and transformed them into the Empire's combat power. After everything was done, the fleet turned on the engine again and jumped to the third fleet. After using this tactic to deal with two Alliance squadrons again, the Alliance fleet seemed to have learned its lesson. They no longer came in a scattered manner, but gathered together to form a large fleet. Prepare to wipe out the Empire's fleet in one fell swoop. In response to the enemy's tactical changes, Mingze quickly changed the Empire's combat strategy. Order all captured warships and the warships originally sent to 10 star systems to reform a small squadron. Specialize in destroying space stations or bombing planets at the border. Once the enemy fleet comes, run immediately. Use the guerrilla tactics of our ancestors to the extreme. And Mingze led the main fleet to the enemy's capital star and went straight to Huanglong. Dozens of captured Alliance warships broke away from the main force, and after joining the original 10 light cruisers that were sent to perform special missions, they entered hyperspace towards the border galaxy. The Empire's main force flashed blue lightning towards the Alliance capital and disappeared. A few days later, the capital of the Alliance Empire. Hundreds of warships are quietly hidden in the starry sky. This is where the Imperial fleet is about to jump and appear. The Alliance's third fleet, which received the news from the space stations along the way, has ambushed here early. In the center of the space minefield in the distance, flashing blue lightning suddenly appeared. The Imperial army is coming. Thank you for the recommendation votes from God is Dead, Murphy's Law 2017, Ancient and Modern Stallions, Arwam, and Alone 123. Chapter 23 Battle of the Alliance Capital Planet. Accompanied by a strong dazzling light, a transport ship appeared at the original location, and many warships of the Alliance fired weapons that had been prepared long ago at the transport ship. The floating air mines also accelerated and rushed towards the center. The top leaders of the Alliance never expected that it was just a transport ship coming. But the weapons had been launched and there was no time to stop them. The minefield that took 3 days to set up was all destroyed on this transport ship. The top leaders of the Alliance felt very frustrated. At this time, an emergency communication came from the communication channel. Sir, just found out that as early as 3 days ago, the 3-star system's space stations around the capital star had lost their signals. What we received may be disguised false intelligence. The enemy may jump out of hyperspace from the direction of those 3-star systems at any time. Oops. We were fooled. All warships turn around and return to the capital star to deploy defenses, the commander of the Alliance fleet roared. The huge fleet slowly turned around, started the engine, and prepared to return to the capital orbit. At this moment, the place where the transport ship was destroyed flashed with lightning again. The Imperial fleet appeared in the original minefield. Fired at the defenseless Alliance warships. The Alliance warships were caught off guard and could only slow down and turn around. However, the Imperial fleet did not give them a chance to turn around, and emptied all the missiles on the warships at once. Quantum transmission printing technology can produce missiles continuously, and the huge destructive beam rushed in front of the missiles. The light cruisers on the periphery of the Alliance fleet were constantly destroyed by the beams, revealing another warship behind. When the beam attack ended, the swarming missiles plunged into the Alliance fleet again. This wave of missiles did not seek to destroy the enemy ships, but only to damage the weapons on the enemy warships. Protect the limited warships of the Imperial fleet to the greatest extent. After a dazzling flash, 99% of the warships of the Alliance fleet were severely damaged, and there was no intact warship to be found, and most of the weapons on the spacecraft were also damaged. The counterattack capability dropped sharply. The Empire's light cruisers quickly cut into the enemy fleet, and the close defense system equipped in the hull slammed hard on the opponent's exposed weapons. This tactic is to prevent the enemy fleet from gathering together for a salvo, and the light cruisers inserted into the enemy fleet will make the opponent handicapped. If you are not careful, the beam cannon will cut into your own people. After creating chaos, the light cruiser did not linger in the fight. Instead, it quickly rushed out from the other side of the Alliance fleet, leaving space for the Empire's destroyer fleet to fire again. The Alliance fleet, which originally wanted to chase the light cruiser fleet, was instantly stunned by the beams that came again. Hundreds of huge beams shot through the already scarred warships. In just a few breaths, the Alliance fleet lost nearly half of its warships. The Empire only lost more than 20 light cruisers, and most of them were accidentally crashed by destroyers when they rushed into the Alliance fleet. Looking at the remaining fleet, the Alliance commander wanted to cry but had no tears. Hold on. Our reinforcements will be here soon. Several light years away, a fleet was frantically rushing towards the capital star, and a fleet of the same size was also heading towards the capital star farther away. These two fleets were the Alliance's first and second fleets sent to encircle and suppress the Empire's harassment fleet. The fleets that had originally joined forces to prepare for the encirclement and suppression, however, because of the Empire's harassment fleet constantly attacking the space station, they ran away when they couldn't win, and threw a few nuclear weapons on the planet while running. This created chaos for the Federation, forcing the Federation to split up its forces. One was to encircle and suppress the harassment fleet, and the other was to support the capital planet. However, they never expected that the capital defense war, which was originally an ambush war, was turned into a sneak attack by the Empire. They didn't expect that the shameless destructive weapons and interspersed tactics made the Alliance's third fleet last less than half a day. Their support fleet didn't have time to join the battle group. They had no choice but to give up the harassment fleet and return to the capital planet. What's even more shameful is that the Emperor of the Empire issued a statement to the entire Alliance. He said that it was only aimed at the founding country of the Alliance. They would leave after attacking the capital planet and never stay, but if anyone dared to send troops, they would attack it together. This instantly stopped the idea of support for many member states that had been seriously injured by the virus. They became spectators, waiting for the Imperial Army and the Alliance Army to fight to loss, and then come up to see if they can pick up a bargain. Anyway, although they paid for the construction of the United Fleet, the actual control was in the hands of the founding country, so they didn't feel bad about losing it. Back to the battlefield of the capital star, after the Alliance fleet encountered another interspersed and salvo fire, the few remaining destroyers could not wait for reinforcements and could only surrender to the Empire helplessly. After the Imperial Marines received the surrendered warships, the Alliance reinforcements finally arrived. Small flashes began to appear where the Imperial fleet originally appeared. But what the Alliance reinforcements didn't know was that the Imperial fleet, which had long known that there were pursuers behind them, when it encountered the stationed Alliance Third Fleet, the transport ships following the fleet quietly laid out a simple minefield while no one was paying attention. After a burst of dazzling light, the Alliance fleet jumped out of hyperspace. As soon as the fleet appeared, the surrounding tracking mines rushed towards the Alliance fleet. The Alliance fleet didn't expect to encounter an ambush at all. You have to know that the Alliance Third Fleet had just exchanged fire with the Imperial Fleet before they jumped. It took less than a day. The enemy had already laid out the minefield. The unprepared Alliance fleet was caught off guard by the minefield, and a large number of warships were destroyed. At this time, the Empire's fleet had turned around and was heading towards the Alliance's support fleet. All ships, spread out in a V-shape and encircle the Empire's fleet. This battle is not about killing the enemy. Just protect yourself and delay the enemy until our second support arrives. The Alliance commander was not affected by the small loss. At this time, in the bridge of the Empire's fleet flagship opposite, Mingze frowned and said, "It is difficult for us to win a quick battle with the opponent's highly mobile and dispersed formation. We must find a way to stimulate the opponent to fight a decisive battle, and use our current numerical advantage to eat up this fleet first. If we let their fleets meet, then our numerical advantage will no longer exist. Even if we use the advantage of shield technology to win, we will suffer heavy losses. This is the only way." All warships listen to orders. Retreat at full speed facing the enemy formation, and target the opponent's capital star. Don't you want to fight? Pretend to bomb their capital and force them to fight a decisive battle. Yes, Your Majesty. All the Imperial ships adjusted their main engines to the minimum power. The deceleration engines at the front of the battleships began to emit a faint blue light, pushing the battleships towards the Alliance's capital star. Chapter 24, The Split of the Parker Alliance. Sir, the Empire's fleet is heading towards the orbit of the capital star. If we don't do anything, I'm afraid the people of the capital will, the radar officer said to the commander with a tangled expression. Don't move. This is the enemy's strategy. They want us to fight a decisive battle. We can't be fooled. As long as we delay until the reinforcements arrive, we will win, the commander said calmly. Although the Parker Alliance's army has been corrupt for many years, there are still some elites who can stand alone. Although the Empire's fleet slowly moved towards the orbit of the Alliance's capital star, the Alliance's fleet did not make any moves. They still kept their formation and followed the footsteps of the Empire's fleet. In the bridge of the Empire's flagship, Mingze raised his mouth. "Oh? If you don't fall for it, then I will really bomb it. Send the order down. After all ships reach the orbit of the Alliance's capital star, carry out light orbital bombing." "Yes, Your Majesty." The messenger nodded solemnly and transmitted Mingze's order to all the Empire's warships. 500 kilometers, 400 kilometers, 300 kilometers. The Alliance's fleet remained unmoved. In the giant space station above the capital star, everyone was anxious. Seeing the Empire's fleet getting closer and closer on the radar, the Alliance's reinforcement fleet just didn't take action. Their space station does have a lot of defensive weapons, but the Empire's fleet is on the other side of the planet. They can't reach it, so they can only stare. Asshole. Who is the commander of that fleet? Why hasn't he launched an attack yet? Does he want the Empire's nuclear weapons to fall on the people of the capital to be happy? An Alliance member slapped the table and shouted loudly. Yes, yes, yes. His behavior is treason. We have to get rid of him, another Alliance member also echoed. Because the commander of this fleet was promoted from a grassroots soldier with no foundation, the Alliance army promoted him quickly to serve as the commander of a large fleet in order to ensure that he would not be infiltrated by the Alliance members and the consortium behind him. But this time, many members caught the flaw, and they planned to use this precious opportunity to completely control the command of the fleet. It has to be said that the top leaders of the Alliance, who are immersed in prosperity, have been blinded by power and money. They did not forget to fight internally even when facing a powerful enemy. Unfortunately, because they did not contact outsiders, no one among the congressmen died from the super virus. The reason why the congressmen were so calm this time and were still thinking about fighting for power when the enemy fleet had reached the capital orbit was because the Speaker of the Parliament, Parker, had reached a secret agreement with the member states in private. The fleets of the member states are about to be secretly transferred to annihilate the fleet of the Empire in the capital galaxy. How can the congressmen who are about to win the war allow the Alliance military to take a large piece of the big pie of the Empire? So they must be undermined before victory. How can you do this? The enemy is on the orbit of our capital. But you are discussing replacing the fleet commander with your people. Our army will never allow you, a bunch of termites, to control the army. A senior military official sitting at the end of the conference table threw down his hat angrily and turned to leave the conference room. In recent years, the control of the military leaders over the lower-level troops has become weaker and weaker. In the peaceful era without war, a large number of officers and generals have been bought by the consortium behind the parliament. If a large fleet commander and his subordinates were not still under the control of the Alliance military leaders, the Alliance military leaders would be completely hollowed out. General Pal, if your military wants to break away from the parliament and become independent, it will not be a good thing for you and your family, a congressman narrowed his eyes and said sinisterly to General Pal, who was about to leave the meeting room. We'll see who will have the last laugh, General Pal also said harshly and strode out of the meeting room. General Pal, who had just walked out of the meeting room and boarded his flagship, received an anonymous video. In the video, his wife and children were ruthlessly beheaded. His wife's tentacles, which had not yet stiffened, were still twitching, and dark green blood gushed out from the broken neck of his wife. His brain was blank. Tears unconsciously flowed slowly from his four compound eyes. Parliament. Pal, will never stop fighting you. General Pal clenched his tentacles into a ball. General, you've vented your anger and it's time to go. At this moment, Pal heard the voice of his most trusted adjutant, and then a dagger stabbed at his neck. Just as Pal was desperately watching the dagger getting closer and closer to his neck, an officer accidentally walked into the corridor where Pal was. The officer reacted quickly and saw the general being attacked, and he rushed towards the assassin as a conditioned reflex. The adjutant was thrown to the ground by the officer, and the dagger in his hand was thrown into the corner of the wall. Pal, who had recovered, took out his gun without hesitation. What I hate most is traitors. I will say hello to your parents for you. After saying that, he pulled the trigger. The ejected bullet threw away half of the adjutant's head, and dark green blood splashed Pal's face, but Pal did not show any expression, and was terrifyingly calm. Well done, you will be my adjutant from now on. Pal turned around and walked slowly towards the bridge, saying to the officer who was still lying on the ground without looking back. The officer behind him nodded excitedly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Inside the bridge of the Alliance's Supreme Commander's special ship, Pal exhaled a breath of turbid air from his chest and threw his body on the command chair. After closing his eyes and resting for a while, he said to himself, since your parliament is unkind, don't blame me, Pal, for being unjust. Come on. Connect the communication of the Alliance's First Fleet to my study. Pal got up and walked into the captain's room next to the bridge. The commander's special ship took off urgently under the gunfire of the spaceport and flew towards the Alliance's First Fleet, which was approaching the capital's orbit. My soldiers, you are the most lovely people in this alliance. You silently protect the Alliance, but the Alliance has become an alliance monopolized by chaebols. The Parliament has stretched out its claws to your relatives. They want to squeeze you and your relatives like slaves. Now, we must unite and overthrow the corrupt Alliance Parliament together. After a bluff, Pal closed the fleet's communication channel to the Alliance, so that no news would be transmitted in or spread out. As the direct fleet that the Alliance military has been vigorously cultivating, the Supreme Commander Pal easily gained actual control of the First Fleet. In the bridge of the Empire flagship, Mingze was sitting in the command seat studying the next plan, and suddenly heard the voice of the communications officer. Your Majesty. There is a communication request from the fleet on the opposite side. Oh? Connect in and see what they have to say. A burst of snowflakes flashed on the large screen of the bridge, accompanied by two coughs, and a bald old general appeared on the screen. It was Pal who appeared on the screen. Thank you for your support. I would also like to thank GM 131016 ZZWWHH 1124 and number 1836 59123 I in 150418 Soledita for their recommendations. So many dear friends, thank you for your support. Chapter 25 Don't fire at friendly forces. Hello, Commander of the Imperial Fleet. I am General Pal, the Supreme Commander of the Alliance Fleet. Pal's face twitched slightly, as if he was struggling with some important decision. Hello, I am General N. Lu Sun, the Supreme Commander of the Empire. Mingze lied without changing his expression. I have a very good proposal. I hope you can listen to it. Pal's facial twitching became more obvious. I'm listening. Go ahead, Mingze asked doubtfully. Is the other party trying to persuade us to surrender? Our alliance military has split with the parliament. Now we hope to reach a ceasefire agreement with you, and if possible we can still cooperate. Pal's face, as if he had made up his mind, regained his calmness. Tell me your conditions. If the conditions are feasible, we can cease fire. Our empire is a peace-loving country, and we have been committed to promoting the peaceful evolution of the universe. Li Mingze no longer needs to think before telling lies. Pal paused and said slowly, if you are willing to cease fire and help us clear the parliament, we are willing to cede 16 galaxies including 10 border galaxies. We will evacuate all residents of these 16 galaxies without taking a single screw. Your immigrants only need to be responsible for receiving our cities. How about it? That won't work. The galaxies you mentioned are already within our occupation range. We still have to help you get rid of the parliament's fleet. This is not worth it. Li Mingze did not state his own conditions, but forced Pal to break his bottom line. We will cede the capital star to you at most. And we will take away the factory. No more. I can't explain to my subordinates if there is more. Pal gritted his teeth and said, the fire of hatred burning in his heart has occupied his mind. He would not hesitate to be a traitor. Plus your 6 months of mining. You should know that it is not us who are anxious now. Li Mingze felt that it was almost done, and made the final conditions. No. 3 months of mining at most. Okay, then we only need 4 months of mining. If you reduce it further, we won't fight. Anyway, we have already vented our anger by withdrawing now, and there is no big loss. Li Mingze narrowed his eyes and pressed forward step by step. Deal. Pal gritted his teeth, thinking that he would start militarization reform after he took control of the alliance, and the day when he accumulated enough strength would be the day when the empire was destroyed. The soldiers of the empire and the first fleet of the alliance received orders from their superiors to stop the confrontation and join forces. Everyone was confused and had no idea what happened. How could the mortal enemy who was about to start a war just now become a friendly army? However, military orders are like mountains, and the code of the military is to obey orders. The two fleets slowly joined together. At this time, Pal received a tip that the second fleet of the alliance had jumped into the hyperspace, heading to the capital galaxy. After notifying Li Mingze of this information, the two fleets received orders to ambush at the jump-out point. The warships of the two fleets started their engines and flew towards the edge of the galaxy. Because of the split between the alliance military and the alliance parliament, the alliance military blocked all military signal channels across star regions. Although the parliament tried its best to crack it, it was too late. The alliance second fleet had already jumped into the hyperspace channel to the capital star system. The latest information received by the fleet commander of the alliance second fleet, which was on its way, was still that the Empire First Fleet was confronting the Imperial Fleet, and the Imperial Fleet was approaching the Alliance capital star. Just now, a silly soldier spread rumors of treason against the Alliance First Fleet and was shot on the spot for secession. Although he kept saying that the message was sent by his family in the Alliance, who knows if his family wanted to split the opposition of the Alliance. Even though he was bought by the Parliament early on and was no longer on the same side as the military leaders, he still believed that the military leaders would not betray the country and surrender to the enemy. Not to mention the patriotism of these senior officials, there has never been a whole military surrender to the enemy in the history of the Alliance. If those responsible for fighting surrendered to the enemy, then is there any need to fight this war? The commander of the Second Fleet, who was thinking this, lay leisurely in his special isolation command cabin, holding a rare red wine produced from the planet Farah in his hand. He thought that he was bribed by the Parliament because he was dazzled by the luxurious life. But he didn't feel that he was wrong. You know, the officers who followed him into the arms of the Parliament all lived a good life that they had never dared to imagine before. Sir, there are 10 seconds left to jump out of hyperspace, the driver reported. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.3, 2, 1 with a flash. The display that originally showed the deep purple channel in the hyperspace turned into a gorgeous starry sky. The stars in the distance emitted dazzling light. The display automatically adjusted, and the dazzling starlight became soft. Captain, what is coming to us in front is the First Fleet of the Empire. Hey! There is a message from the civilian channel that the First Fleet has surrendered to the enemy. The message said, before the communicator finished speaking, hundreds of red beams of light were shot from the First Fleet in the distance. Avoid, the commander shouted in fear. Unfortunately, the flagship, which was disguised as an ordinary destroyer and hidden in the fleet, was locked by their own people who knew about it. Almost half of the beams were directed at the flagship, blocking all the evasion channels of the warship. Dozens of huge red beams hit the surface of the flagship violently, and the armor on the surface of the flagship was burned by the beams and melted at a very fast speed. In less than 2 breaths, The flagship was split into hundreds of pieces by the beam cannon, followed by a huge explosion. The commander of the Second Fleet and all the senior officers died without a burial place. The remaining warships lost their command and became like headless flies fighting on their own. Although the Alliance had set up the second-level command ship, the third-level command ship, and even the fourth-level command ship early in order to deal with this situation. Unfortunately, they could not stand facing the own people who knew about it. These spare command ships were all attacked and damaged in the previous wave of attacks. The light cruisers of the Empire and the Alliance's First Fleet seized the opportunity to rush into the formation of the Second Fleet, and the formation was instantly destroyed. The light cruiser pierced through the Second Fleet, and the destroyer's gunfire quickly followed. Hundreds of beams of light flashed again, accompanied by dozens of warships booming in space, like a silent fireworks show. The destroyers of the Second Fleet of the Alliance, which had exhausted their weapons, were no longer able to organize an effective counterattack. Only a few red beams of light flashed across the starry sky and hit the shields of the Empire's destroyers, causing little damage. The Second Fleet of the Alliance saw that the light cruiser fleet was about to rush into its formation again. A fearful warship quickly fired a white flare and turned off its engine to signal surrender. With the first ship taking the lead, all the warships surrendered one after another. Having lost their commander, they had no interest in fighting to the death. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.